koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. On behalf of the LED committee, I'd like to welcome you to the LED 2021-22 elect for club officers. Congratulations and thank you for taking on these important roles that will be part of your journey into 21-22. My name's Edith Cheney. I'm the Leadership Development Chair for District 9920. On the committee with me is Ursula Bark, Sean Peacock and Becky Giblin, who is an apology this afternoon. So without any further ado, I'd just like to go over some IT kaupapa before we start. The registration for any of these events or any virtual events that you will go into in 21-22, there is a two-part process to them. First of all, for this Rotary district, we utilise the event management system in Club Runner. You need to have an up-to-date Club Runner account so that you may register off the link. Once you go into that link, you will be asked to register and confirm. The link will not be sent out to you until closer to the event, which was this morning. So I'm just wanting to reiterate that for people. If you are having trouble coming into these events, and there'll be more of them, because District 992, we will be delivering online to ensure the equity of our presentations to our Pacific Island countries, who are an important part of our district. So we need to make sure that you are registered correctly, and then the link will come to you. I know it's anxious the first time we do it, but the more we do it, the easier it becomes. If there is any issues, I'm wondering, John, if you'd like to maybe just quickly give people any advice. John Fothergill at the moment is the IT chair for 2020-2021. Thanks, John.
Not sure what advice I can give apart from make sure you can log into Club Runner. And if you can't, then seek some assistance from someone who can. If you forget your password, there's a forgot password link. If you forget your username, there's a forgot username link. But those are all assigned to you when you are when you join Rotary, or for many of you that have been in Rotary for a long time, they were ported across from the old Rotary South Pacific system about 4 years ago. So by now, I think most people in district have logged into the district website, which is rotarydistrict9920.org. And obviously you all have, because you wouldn't be on the meeting if you hadn't. So, but yeah, if there's anyone that does have any issues, I'm always here to help.
Cool, thank you, John. And in the side chat box, anything you'd like to say or queries, pop it in there. We have 3 of us on the team. 2 of us at any one time will be watching that space. As when we go into breakout sessions or what, you can put your hand up and we will try and directly answer those queries. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to DGE-elect Steve Cheney. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Edith. I'll screen share. Kia ora koutou katoa, he mihi mahana nei ki a koutou katoa. Warm greetings to everyone. E tautoko ana ki te kaupapa for LEDS 2021. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Bula, malalo alei, talofa lava, kia ora ana, moriora, namaste, ni hao. Hello to everyone in the languages of our district. I'd like to introduce myself quickly. I joined Rotary in 1984. I've had a lot of just different district roles with youth, particularly in the youth area. Organised 3 different district conferences and been an AG twice. And I'm well supported by my wife Edith and we are a bit of a tag team. I keep telling everyone I wear the trousers, but I'm not sure if anyone believes me. 9920, as you can see from the picture on the side, is the largest maritime district in Rotary, and it includes the islands of Tahiti, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, American Samoa, Cook Islands, and New Zealand. The important contribution that's made is for leadership in the district is our area governors, and they all should be on board. So David Bradshaw is looking after Auckland Central, Vinod Serene, Auckland East, Ashwini, Auckland CBD, Tanya Thomas, Auckland South, Auckland Rural is Chris Beattie, Vanita Nand from Fiji, Medi from French Polynesia, Frank Barron, I see Frank's on board, American Samoa and Samoa, and the district Rotaract rep, Sean Peacock. Just to introduce the District 992 team, current District Governor Craig Horrocks. Welcome, Craig. And Craig wanted to have a quick word about R100 and his conference, so I'll do that quickly at the end of my session. I'm currently the District Governor-elect, and I see the District Governor nominee, Alan Smith's on board, and that's the current DG Train. District Secretary, Kirsten Hawke, I can see her as well, and District Treasurer, Kai Hacker. District Chair, Admin, Finance and Audit, and one of the big jobs in the district, Alan Ice, and Foundation Chair, equally a big job, Jenny Herring, and Youth Programs Chair, Peter Ross. International Service Chair, Jeanette Drysdale. Leadership Elect, Learning and Development, Edith Cheney. Conference Chair, Leanne Jaggs. Bulletin Editor this year will be Fiona Ironside. Rotary Youth Exchange Chair is John Fothergill. Technology and Systems Chair, Simon Cook. Awards Committee, Vicky Saw, and currently we have 2 vacancies with the Membership Chair and the Public Image Chair. Rotary International Strategy and Objectives. You all should know the vision of Rotary. Together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe and in our communities. And from that, there's 4 P's: increase our impact, expand our reach, enhance participant engagement, and increase our ability to adapt. So from RI, the 4 P's, we get strategic goal 1, increase our impact. The direction from the incoming Rotary International President, Sheikha Mehta, is take clear positions on environmental issues. We will continue to eradicate polio, and the foundation presentation is in our next LED, which is on the 23rd of May, led by Jenny Herring. RI Strategic Goal 2, expand our reach, engage members through the use of technology, and there's going to be a lot of work done this year on making sure we're increasing the use of our technology with Club Rhino, with Fletcher, with Zoom, and every club established goals in Rotary Club Central. That's a request from Sheikha Mehta, and showcase your stories focusing on the Rotary Foundation 7 areas of focus. Strategic Goal 3, enhance participant engagement. In the last 5 years, there's 1.2 million people joined Rotary and 1.2 million people left, and we've still got 1.2 million members. So the importance of engagement and retention of members. And Sheikha has a new member strategy of each Rotarian is to bring one, and that's his target for this year. We're to look at forming new clubs and new models, passport clubs, e-clubs, cafe clubs, corporate clubs. And Sheikha wants to set up a program of Rotary Days of Service. He's got a particular focus on empowering girls and Rotary International have set goals for diversity, equity and inclusion. The last PO is increase our ability to adapt, and it's all about governance, improving governance, succession and demonstrating leadership. District goals, I'll be drafting a document which will come out to all clubs. We need to collaborate with other clubs and organisations to increase our impact. For your role, it's important you do it your way. We'll have some strategies on membership, embracing technology. We want clubs to use the district calendar, use the technology, use the district website. And I'm also asking clubs through the AGs to do a health check and develop an annual plan. And Craig developed a checklist for president-elects on looking at club governance and your trust and just making sure everything's okay. Now, changeover is 4th of July at MIT, 2 p.m. And we have conference on the 24th of June next year, and it will be at Te Papa in Wellington. DG visits, I'm planning on starting those in August to give clubs time to do their health check and annual plan. And if the Pacific opens up, then we would probably be doing those next year. As someone who was born in the polio pandemic, I do harp on a bit about it. I remember reading when I did some research on Wikipedia, the polio pandemic went from 48 to 63. The Salk vaccine came out in 1960, and the last case of wild polio was 1963. So from the time of vaccination till all clear was 3 years. If we're looking at COVID, we're looking at a COVID world for a long time. You know, we're talking about another 3 to 7 years. So the way we go about things will need to change. And it's that change that we have to deal with as club leaders. And with that, I'll quickly pass over to Craig, who wants to give some notices.
Thank you, Steve. And it is wonderful to see everybody here. Kia ora. I'll just get straight into the key notices. First of all, you should have all received last week at least one invitation to the R100 event on the 25th of June. And the district conference on the 26th of June. If anyone has not received that invitation, please check your spam. Otherwise, you can just give me your details in chat, and we will make sure that there's another invitation sent out. So that's the first thing. We're hoping that we were hoping that there would be more borders open than is the case, but we will. The other part of the announcement is that the event on the Friday night and the district conference on the Saturday, it's a one-day district conference, will be broadcast to, in the case of the Friday night, on Vimeo as a stream, and we'd be asking any of the Pacifica clubs to join in with that event and be online and hopefully have some sort of in-person meeting. We realize that with this tricky virus, it's difficult to predict, and that's why we're doing everything will be in the can as well as the live event. So either way, the event will go ahead. So as I said, first thing is, if you haven't received the invitation, please let me know. We're slowly moving over to a new system, and the new system does track when people's email addresses change, etc. It's got some very clever stuff, but we may have missed a few people, and for that I apologize and let me know. Friday night, the Friday night celebrations, of course, is a celebration of 100 years of service, and we are featuring a number of our projects which have, in particular, the longer serving projects such as Cure Kids. And this year, it's the 50th anniversary of our establishing Cure Kids, which has done amazing work for on child health in both New Zealand and in the Pacific. The Fiji Oxygen Project and the Give Every Child a Future project are part of that, the benefit of that research. So that's going to be for those who are in Auckland, that's going to be at the Aotea Centre in the newly refurbished Kiriti Kanawa Theatre. And there's a lot of, it'll be fast paced and with lots of very short speeches, not like this one. This is far too long. I'm already over time, Steve. And the next day, on the Saturday, is a one-day district conference, which is going to be 5 sessions covering issues like how do we use our past to sell our future, wellness discussion, projects, and so on. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. We've made a big effort to ensure that the cost is as low as it could be. Obviously, now that the book is launched, and for those of you who have ordered, thank you. It's made a huge difference. The first production run with 3,000 is about 2,500 committed. So and everybody who has read the book has been amazed. So I'm hoping that you'll get a copy of the book through your club ordering as soon as possible. The final thing that I'd like to announce today is that we have with us, and I'd like you to turn your camera on, Vanita, if you can. We have with us our new District Governor nominee. In other words, the District Governor for after Alan, and that is Vanita Nand. So we will have Vanita being District Governor. And I'd like to, as Edith has already shown, if we could all just acknowledge Vanita right now. And one of the things I just want to say personally is many of us don't see the work that so many clubs do. Vanita has been my area governor in Fiji. We could not have done what we have done to deal with Cyclone Yasa, with COVID, with so many things, and Vanita has just been an absolute tower of strength, and I'm sure she will be a wonderful district governor to follow Steve and Alan, who Steve has very kindly, when he made his introductory remarks, acknowledged that we are working together incredibly closely. It's such a pleasure. It's such a huge relief to be a district governor who has a governor-elect, governor nominee, and now a governor nominee who are just wonderful and very dedicated Rotarians. I think I've covered everything. Have I missed anything out, Steve? You're muted, Steve.
You've covered everything, Craig.
Okay, well, look, I'm going to just be here, but let you guys get on with it under the leadership of Edith, and it would be churlish of me not to actually also acknowledge the wonderful, wonderful work that the LED committee has done this year under incredibly trying circumstances. We have really changed with the changes that were forced on us, but changed permanently. And I know that the information that will be passed on today, the help that will start today, the work that you will do together as presidents today will be very much the legacy of the work that Edith and her team, especially Ursula as well. And thank you, John, for your leadership here as well. So I think if I've got so many people to thank, I then would run out of time. So I'll sign off on the mic.
Kia ora, Craig. Just under the 1 minute. Well done. Well done, you. I'd just like to acknowledge that we have the club officers and or presidents in the room. So the LED is around making sure that those people that are, again, part of that board in our districts are actually up to date with any changes that might come in. So this is a really nice segue. Thank you very much for those thank yous, and congratulations, Vanita, on behalf of the LED committee. We'd like to now break into breakout groups, because what we've learnt is that this model is part of a hybrid model. So whilst we've pivoted to online to ensure we have equity of presentations and information sharing with our Pacific Island districts, and or the in-person is also an important part. So one isn't replacing the other, it is simply the and. As people that know me, I will keep saying the and. So without any further ado, I'm going to ask John to put you into breakout groups with our current area governors that are in the space. And I'd like you between now and 1:45 to put any burning questions you may have, what's on top, in regards to any of our sessions that we'll be delivering. So Treasurer, Secretary, Youth, Foundation, International Service. I see Jeanette's here, International Service, and any membership and public image. So those are the criteria around our LED kaupapa for this weekend and next weekend. And any burning questions, what's on top, please put those to your AGs now. We've learnt that breakout rooms seem to be where people want to be. So we're going to do one of those today. We're going to front load it to the beginning of our session, and then we're going to roll with the presenters, and we'll add those questions that you've had, if they don't answer them, into the mix. Ko marama, everyone understand? You will be brought back before we go for a break. So you're going to disappear, but I know you're all going to come back, and I look forward to seeing you all. Thanks, John.
Richard LinkedIn yet?
We have not seen Richard yet.
Okay, are we worried about that at all? Or
He's not due till 2 o'clock.
which
There's a
is
break.
in 15 minutes. Okay,
Yeah, there's a break there between now and then. So hopefully he'll be on before 2.
all good.
Kia ora, everyone. Yay, we're all back. Fantastic. Had some great introductions from people, and talking about obviously the burning issue of COVID in our Fijian islands and that impact, and still some of the impact that we're feeling over there in the Pacific. So ka nui te mihi kia koutou katoa. So is there anyone that would like to start sharing our AGs, burning questions? I got a burning question when I went into a couple of breakout rooms, so I'm prepared, but anything. Really pleased to hear most people are getting their boards in order and setting people up, and club runner didn't seem to be an issue. So that was the 2 rooms I was in, so that was pleasing to hear.
We didn't have any burning questions really in room number 3. I think that was. We had a lot of lovely introductions from people all over the place, but mainly everyone's feeling like a sponge and just ready to soak up what the day's got to offer. So that was really cool to hear.
Thanks, Ursula. 3, 1. Who was group 1 leader? AG. Not sure who that was.
No,
Was
that
you,
was me.
Ashwini? Yep.
Yes, that was me. No, I had a majority from Fiji, and same thing. They're in in spite of what's happening there, they are onto it and getting ready, registering their clubs. Very positive. That's the thing that came out, and I'm so pleased. I think DG Steve should be really happy with that.
Thank you. Room 2. I'm not sure who our AG was in room 2. Barno, like to report back on behalf of the Oropu.
That was me, Edith. Kia ora.
Chris. Thanks, Chris.
So we did have lots of questions about Club Runner actually in our forum, about making sure that the Club Runner details are updated for each club was a question, and we had some feedback about how they could do that. The second one was logging into these meetings, into our LED presentations today and our Zoom today. Everyone would like maybe a sheet that could be emailed to everyone, and I know that everyone the emails did come out, but it would be really good to be able to get a sheet on actually how to do it. I know that some people did struggle, even I struggled, but we got here anyway. But that was the one thing. The other one question was, what is the future of Club Runner? Because I know that some of the small clubs, I know that the club that I'm in, we don't use Club Runner anymore because it was too expensive per member. And there was been talk about changing Club Runner to something else. And the fourth question, which was a really appropriate question, was, do we get ties this year? Right, that was us.
Okay, I'll leave that burning tie question to the DGB because that we always have to look fabulous. That's the kaupapa for 2021-22. If nothing else, everyone will be looking fabulous. And yes, do we need ties? That's a very good question, and that has been brought to Parliament actually. So how appropriate that question is. Right, Group 4. Who was our Kōrero Group 4 coordinator? I see Tanya still here. Frank, come in, Frank.
There you go. Okay. So I guess really our burning question was really about grants and club grants, district grants. Maybe there was some questions about who specifically could a club go to in district to help with the club grants, and a little bit of confusion as to who to go to for these to answer these questions.
Jeanette Drysdale's on board. So Jeanette, do you want to answer that?
Normally for anything that involves a global grant or a district grant, you would go to the District Foundation Chair, Jenny Herring. If it's about projects in general, which might include that, you can come to me and I'll help you on the right pathway to the type of grant and funding and so on. So Jenny Herring for global grants, district grants in the first instance, or you can come to me. I'm usually at my computer every day, so not a problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette. So that session, Frank, for that burning question, wherever that was coming from, is in our LED next week. It's the first session on the Rotary Foundation and then International Service. So Jenny and Jeanette, the two J's, will be presenting that session next week. So get those people logged in for that session. Cool, thank you. And Group 5, Tanya, is that you?
Tanya requested somebody to sort of present. So okay. On behalf of Group 5.
Thanks, Penny.
So we sort of, there wasn't a burning question, but for example, Elise highlighted that, you know, their two clubs in Fiji have merged. They would like more district presence. Also challenges, as I pointed out as well, in terms of fundraising, that has been quite difficult. And because of COVID and, you know, people have had different priorities as well. So that was one question. And of course, again, highlighted that the transition membership, that was another thing. And then transition from Rotaract to Rotary was a challenge, and they were, you know, we lose people there. So that's a challenge. If we want to increase the membership, we probably need to look at ways of retaining the Rotaract or having them transition from Rotaract to club member. So yeah, I think, yeah, those were the major points: membership, fundraising.
Thank you. And again, next week, we have 2 sessions for the LED focused on membership. And we have a guest speaker coming in from Australia to give us some key learnings that he's found. And also the public image section is sitting there as well. So there's sort of like a combination of both. Again, get your people to register for that and confirm. And by then, listening to Chris's burning question, I will put out a form so people know how that process works a little bit more clearly for them. So there's no barriers to participation. Tanya.
I just want to say there was one, I thought, I just want to elaborate on one of the issues that was raised, or ideas that was raised in group 5, and that is for the district, and I think it's probably something for you, Steve, to think about, is presence and membership by the Pacific Islands at the district level, and the, you know, just looking into that and seeing whether we actually have enough presence from the islands within our district. So I just wanted to put that as a more kind of, I think, crucial discussion to be held.
Sure, we've got that. I've got it twice now, Tanya. Thank you. Yeah, so presence is a really important corridor around that. Right, it is 1:51. Thank you, our AGs.
Edith, we've got Vanita and Sean still to feedback.
Oh, sorry, Vanita.
Thank you, Edith. We had two issues that we were discussing. One was the international service, how to, you know, there are clubs in Australia and New Zealand who want to work with clubs in the Pacific Islands, but, you know, there is very little response from island clubs in terms of seeking assistance. So that was one of the issues. I have proposed a format for the Fiji clubs, but for the AGs of Samoa and the other Pacific Islands, if you could please look at how you can engage your clubs more closely with the international service, with Jeanette, so that you can sort of maximize on support that New Zealand and Australia clubs want to give to the Pacific Islands. The other one was financial systems. So we were talking about which systems the clubs are using. A few of the clubs in our group were using Xero, and you know, the usage of checks, and how do we manage our financial systems. So I think that would be an interesting thing to incorporate when we're talking about finances.
Great question. I've got that there. And if it's not answered in the session, remind me with a hand up or a chat, Vanita, and I'll segue that in. Kia ora,
thank you. Thank you.
Sean. Was there apartheid from Sean?
I think Sean was in the same group as Vanita.
Yes,
okay.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, whānau, it is 1:53. Aroha, we are 3 minutes late. And Te Arawa, as everyone knows, as an iwi, is never late for anything. So I'm not going to own that. I'm going to own it because all of that rich corridor that you've had. We're going to have a short break. Don't go off this Zoom. Just turn your cameras off. Go away, get a cup of tea, bring it back. And we are then, I can see Richard Stevens sitting there. We are ready to get into Secretary corridor. Alana, is that a hand up or is that just resting? That's a lovely hand up. Okay, resting, lovely. So Richard's ready to go. So don't go and leave the room. Just turn your cameras off, mute yourself, and we'll see you back at 1:55. Kia ora.
Oh, that's good. Am I that popular?
Yes.
Or is that a figment of my imagination?
No, well, they all want to hear about the new software, Richard.
Oh, do they? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Well,
what's
yeah, we can.
replacing Club Runner and what's the program?
Okay, I can get into that a little later. I haven't got that as part of the program, but I'll try and drop that in at the end because there could be a hook to that from an operational point of view.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to get us back in and started. And before I hand over to you, Ursula, everyone that's just coming back in, you'll see in chat, which should be at the side of your screen, there is a link, and that link will be coming up after every session for you to actually, so copy that and go into it, and it lets you do 3 very short evaluation questions for us so that we have the ongoing evaluation happening throughout the session. We've tried at the end of the session and we've learnt from previous LED and online that people don't respond. So if you could do that as we go through, Sean has popped that in the chat for our evaluation. Just keep rolling with that before you go for your break. Open it up, do an evaluation for us, 3 questions, and then we'll have that ongoing feed in to support us doing things better and differently and more responsibly to our district members. Kia ora. Thank you, Ursula. Over to you.
Thanks, Edith. All right. Kia ora, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this next session, which is on the secretary role. Today we have Richard Stevens, who is going to lead this session for you. Richard's been in Rotary for almost over 30 years. So as such, he expectedly has a wealth of experience and particularly experience in many of the different roles that you can have within Rotary, including past president. He's been very much a part of the ROSOPS team over the last 3 years and is known as Mr. Club Runner. So I'm sure you'll have lots of questions funneled your way, as well as several district roles that you've been in as well. So what does ROSOPS stand for, Richard?
Rotary Zone Operations.
Brilliant. And would you like to just front us off by telling us a little bit about what you're excited about with regards to that role?
Okay, it's very much, thanks Ursula, it's a very much a future view. It's a helicopter view of understanding where Rotary is today, where it came from and where it has to go. You notice the way I say has to go. I'm privileged to sit in what amounts to a national role, and ROSOPS is the genesis or the beginning of what you might call a national Rotary organization. Rotary is a federated system. It's federated at the club level and it's federated at the district level. It was wonderful when it was a nice, comfortable world when everybody only worked from 9 to 4 and only dad or mum had to go to work. Federation has both benefits and problems associated with it. From a strategic point of view, which your DGE Steve can talk to, Rotary has to change and change radically in New Zealand. There is a, Steve will bring it up, there is a regionalisation project that has been going for a couple of years and is likely to get consent from RI next year at the Council on Legislation. You all know we moved from an Australian and a New Zealand Pacific zone to Zone 8. So we are now all one zone. Strategically, we have to do something different, and ROSOPS is the genesis of that for what we call the Oceania zone of New Zealand and the Pacific. And I will let Steve fill you in. So I hope that gives you some perspective of where I'm coming from. The thing is that it's given me a tremendous perspective of people around the show and the clubs and the problems you have. and the opportunities that present themselves. And it's the old story of when you're up to your eyeballs in alligators, it's a little difficult to remember you wanted to drain the swamp. So today what I'm going to do is talk about administration. Sounds boring, but I'm going to challenge you to demonstrate, I think, to give you confidence that it's probably one of the most important roles in the club after the president. So I'm actually going to start with a question. And I'm just going to come out of presentation mode so that you can see that, so I can see you. It's quite important. So how many of you have been a secretary in the club? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I
5,
have too, Jan
6.
Malcolm.
And how many are coming into it as a new role? You've never done it before. Okay, all right. So for those who may have been a secretary, I hope I don't bore you too much. But perhaps in this modern world, you might appreciate some of the nuances that I've got. And for those who've never done it before, be assured that you actually have a very valuable role. It's just that I don't think many people have thought about it in the way that I want to bring it up to you. Probably one of the most misunderstood and undervalued roles in the Rotary Club, and I'm going to talk about that. Most of my strategy today is to trigger some thoughts in your minds to get a more holistic perspective, and then to have a few questions and get some viewpoints from you. I'm not going to tell you how you do this or what to do. There's a set of principles that I hope to bring to the fore, which will give you confidence in how you might address it. Everybody knows what a secretary is, at least I think they do. What I'm going to say is that the secretary is a lot more than being a secretary. So the question is, what are the aspects of this role in Rotary, and why is it such an important job to do? You are an integral part of a team. Everybody gets used to administration. Everybody knows that you talk about agendas, meetings, and minutes. But I think there's a heck of a lot more to it. And I hope to explain that to you today. You're part of a team of 2. Your key person that you operate with is the president. Now, the president, of course, is the master for the year. He has a program, but usually is developed with the club. But you're a tag team. So if you think about in an ordinary business, I don't know if it's a corporate or a reasonably large business, everybody's used to having a managing director or a general manager who usually has what they call a personal assistant. Another name for that is a secretary. And if those two don't work in tandem, basically it doesn't work at all. So your role is actually critical, and it's very important that you get alongside your president. Obviously, every president will have different strengths, different ideas, and may want to work in different ways. So it's about fitting in with that. The presidents themselves may not understand what a secretary does. And so you can coach them, if you like, in that. So everybody's used to that. What I'm going to do is address this "and" bit. I think there are leadership, very strong leadership aspects in the secretary's role. And what ties it all together is risk management. That comes from your role in the club and on the board. Everybody has a foundation chair, and you have a membership director, and you might have, if it's a large club, you might have a club service director, and you've got a sergeant. Everybody's busy with the known roles, or the roles that you understand what to do. So it's about understanding how things get glued together. So ultimately, the secretary glues things together, and in the process of doing that is actually acting in a risk management role. So the first thing to consider, and you'll get copies of this, and it's tied up with administration and governance. You need to know where your club documents are. Everybody thinks about Rotary using the word club. It's important to remember that the club is actually a legal entity. It's an association, it's registered, and your trusts are registered charities. So the fact that it's an association with the constitution and the board and the way you operate means this is not just a friendly society, this is actually a business. So it's one of the things that I've always found helps me is recognizing that running your Rotary Club is running a business. And if you take that approach to it, that helps you understand why you're doing certain things and why you need to do other things. So I'll leave that list there. When you get the slides, you'll understand it, but it's part of your glue, the role that you follow as a glue. So at this point, let's pause and consider these two questions. And I'd ask people if they have any views on that. How many think you do have a leadership position? Del? You're on mute. You're on mute, Del.
Hang on, I can ask.
Can you unmute him?
How's that?
Here we go.
That's better.
There we go. Got me now. Okay. All right. Well, as you've already stated, it's self-evident. Together with the president, you are the focus of the club. But whether the members see you in those other roles of other than admin, I think that needs work. They probably don't see you as the custodian of, they look more to the president for the leadership, I think, and perhaps the secretary, steps in behind that.
True. So I'll come to what I mean by leadership in a minute.
Yeah. All right.
Perhaps that's the challenge. It's quite interesting you'd say that, because yes, the president is the leader of the club, but the role has a leadership position, which is perhaps not obvious.
Yeah. Yes, there's a distinction. I agree with that.
Okay. Has anybody else got any thoughts? So my second question is, what aspects of leadership? And that leads directly into what Del was addressing and I'm addressing. Has anybody got any ideas? No. Okay. Let's continue and we'll have a look at it. So Del hit the nail on the head. It's a support position to the president, but it's a support position to the club. And that is, I think, the defined leadership role. Because as I said, everybody else has got specific jobs on the board. They're a treasurer, they're the membership director, and they're sergeant, various other things. So what the secretary does is actually keeping the board and the club glued together. If the president's doing his job well, he's out the front leading the club, out with the projects, making sure that some things get done and being the visible face for you. So the secretary needs to be doing a number of other things, because as an organization, it's often the little things. There's an old expression, which is, if you look after the cents, the dollars look after themselves. I'm aware of a club in my district that might have had 3 board meetings this year. And 3 of those were only because somebody said, when are you having a board meeting? Not particularly good. So you're a partner to the president, but you have a very strong role in governance. And I ask you to think about what that means. We're an organization, you've got a constitution, which is a set of rules and things you need to be guided by. If you don't know your constitution, then I suggest that you better read it. It's also a chance for reflection, because at a meeting, you don't actually have a job to do, really, which gives you a chance to stand back and look at things on a weekly, fortnightly, and monthly basis in the way you do it. You've also got to look after the club records because it's a formal organization. You've got to have it. You can be a very good wing to the president in making sure you keep the procedures up to scratch. I don't know how many of you have been to a sports club and watched a committee try to run a meeting only to have it disintegrate into a complete anarchy because they couldn't follow their own processes. Okay, so process and procedure are important because that's part of governance, but it also helps to make sure that everybody gets their say and you run it. So there are both formal and informal procedures. So it's wise to understand how the club does operate and nudge it sometimes if it's going off the rails. For example, in my club, I had at one point, they were getting very sloppy about how we worked with our own trust. And I basically had to pull them up and said, well, they're 2 distinct entities. You don't just rock on up to the trust and say, please dish out some money, because there are rules. You actually have to, as a club, you actually have to write to the trust, and you have to make sure that the requests of the trust are in line with the trust deed. And the trustees of your trust, while they're in the club, actually have a defined role, and they can, in principle, tell the club no. So it's about understanding the rules. So that's why I think you guys are actually in that kind of leadership position. You're the glue which will keep things, and the oil which keeps things running. How do you, I'm interested in how you think about that, which addresses the original question from Del. Do you agree with what I said? You got a different view?
Yeah, I do agree that it is, that's what I was thinking as well when you first question about leadership, that I think was it basically a secretary enables the president to do her or his or her job in terms of projects and all that. Whilst the secretary is the link between the board or the members and the president, and just basically keeps the communication and everything flowing. And if there's any, essentially, you know, like a glue or yeah, a mode of communication. And I think basically sees to the smooth running of the nitty-gritty that the president can be spared in terms of, you know, this not happening properly, some admin issues, some whatever. I think that way it is a second role or a support role to the president.
Any other comments?
In case anybody else has got any, I'll just double check first. Yeah, I can kind of see from what you said, you know, Del's perspective, because in a way, you know, what you've outlined there, being a partner, a custodian, and an organizer, they don't seem outwardly to be more traditional leader roles, except for the fact that they are absolutely integral to the running of the appropriate running of the club.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Richard, I've got a question.
Yep.
Looking for your advice. If you're secretary and you say you find the trust documents aren't up to date, or there's some, what processes have you got to bring it to either the board or the club if you actually find something is wrong?
Well, you take it, essentially you take it to the president to sort out what you might do. The board, the president might want to, if you've got a lawyer in the club, you might then talk to the lawyer in your club. But essentially between you and the president, I would say you sort out what the next steps are.
Richard, I was thinking, I have a question here, because when you're saying that secretary is actually gluing the members together, which I got it and got some leadership role, but there's a fine line between that, because I think there should not be any conflict be raised from this, because the secretary might be thinking, oh, I can do this and that, and then president saying, this is my role. So the president is treating the secretary as a PA, as I don't know, but that's
Yep.
that's majority of the time that's what happened.
Yes, I understand it does. That's why I preface my comments by saying, because you're a partner with the president, obviously you tailor what you do and how you do it according to the needs of the president. And if you like, the way the club might be operating, always recognizing that the way the club is operating is not necessarily the best way. There needs to be somebody who can sit back and say, actually, we can do something better. And then finding the way of talking to that and having the president buy into it, if you like. Very often a PA, people undervalue a PA because they often very often chivvy the boss, because they are so wrapped up in a lot of other things. So yes, I agree. There's a fine dividing line, and it's different with every club. It's completely dependent on the two personalities.
Richard, I have a question around that. So if the two personalities are not a cohesive partnership, where would they then go to in regards to support?
That's a really difficult situation.
Because the COPUP is very clear, it's for the good of the club that we do good in the world and in our communities. So
yeah, it's really up to the, yeah. I think it should become a board discussion at the end of the day, because the board is the aggregate leadership in the club. And at that point, the club can be aware of those issues and maybe well be able to ameliorate it. Obviously, if somebody is in a role, the president is not going to step out. So the reality is, if we have somebody in a secretary role who finds it very, very difficult to operate with the president simply because of a personality clash or the way he's operating, I think that's where the two people might want to have a private conversation, and the secretary would probably step out. It is a club issue. That's where different districts operate in different ways, but at some point you might be able to seek counsel from an assistant governor. You never know what kind of advice may be there, or what the friction point is, and they might be able to sort it out.
We covered, Richard, in the first session, the district's job is to support and strengthen clubs.
Yes.
So if the secretary does have an issue, they can go to the AG.
Right.
That is the AG's role.
I understand. All right. So let's move on a little from there, so that we are so the next part is risk management. And this addresses, if you like, some of the comments in the discussion that we've just had. But it's a little bit more than that. In being a partner to the president, because it's a formal entity, you are a legal entity, while the president's racing out there looking after the projects and keeping things going, there is a role of reflection that sits back and says, are we being compliant? And in this case, if you do have an argument with the president, you're on strong grounds, because compliance today is one of the critical things in our modern world. There is just no getting around it. You know that in your own experiences, we open bank accounts and now have to get signatures, and what the Anti-Money Laundering Act has done for creating the difficulties of actually getting to be a signatory on a bank account. That is basically compliance. There is no room for maneuver. It's follow the rules or else. So I've put in there just one thing for you to think about from a compliance point of view. The new Privacy Act came into force on the 1st of December 2020. You may be surprised, but it does have an impact on how the club operates and the consequences of it. And one of the little things I've given you there is to think email. There's a hint to think email. Because I'm Mr. Club Runner, I can see an awful lot of members' email addresses. So one of the problems of having your Rotary email as your corporate or office email is you are immediately putting your club at risk by having your Rotary email inside your company email. Because inside a company, you as the employee don't own the mail system, the company owns the mail, which means private business, that is your Rotary Club, is sitting inside your company corporate email system. And the system administrators can see everything. So in fact, you are breaching your club's privacy if you have a corporate email that you use for your Rotary email. The same situation applies to each of us as our own individuals. Some clubs have email addresses, for example, president at your Rotary Club and secretary at your Rotary Club. By far, the bulk of us run in our own private email, which is fine until the day your email gets hacked. And if you're the secretary and you've got all the club budgets and the private discussion that you're having gets hacked and suddenly goes public, you are in trouble because it's a breach of privacy and it's in your email. There are quite significant consequences in this, which actually go all the way through into club websites. There is no escaping the situation today, even if you have a foreign-based club website, and that applies to Club Runner. So I've just talked about email because that's quite easy to relate to, but there are other things that we might be doing, which, if something happens the wrong way, could put your club at risk. And that drives directly into club insurance needs and things like that, which I know Alan will talk about in the next session. So you have a risk management role. You have a role which says, what if? And if you like, if you're particularly in New Zealand, but equally in the Pacific, when we think risk management, think health and safety and all of the rules that go around that in New Zealand. Because that's what it is. It's the health and safety of your club from a legal and operational point of view, which means if you don't have a policy and people aren't following the rules, you immediately put yourself at risk. It's the what if. But it's also the last bit, which is, okay, we're running quite well, but how do we go from okay to excellent? Which will really make the club hum. Just a thought there. So, is the role important? Its value. I've collected a few things there, I think, which kind of roll up everything that I've tried to talk about. And Kulbia really nailed it when she noted the PA and said, it's the oil, it's the way we pull people together. So it's not a lot, it's a lot more than just organizing the next agenda in the minutes, I think. You've got an opportunity to reflect and improve the situation next year. And I'll come back to the typical proverb that Rotary uses. You know, if you always keep doing what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Okay, so if you're happy, that's fine. But if you want something different, you have to break a few eggs. So a few challenges there. Some comments or questions from people?
Richard, I've got a quick one. Club assemblies, what within the Constitution, who calls a club assembly, the president or the secretary? And then what's the process, the democratic process for a club assembly?
I would say the president calls the club assembly based on getting the feel for the club. Well, there's some direction there. If a club doesn't have at least 2 club assemblies a year, basically they're on a railway track to nowhere, because nobody's thinking about themselves and where they might want to go. So perhaps the secretary should be thinking about talking to the board and the president as part of the program, which I'll come to in a moment, which says, why don't we set up lead the discussion about setting up meetings for a club discussion. And being a secretary, you are in a position to listen to all of the people to get the feel for what issues there may be. So it's very much, I think it's very much about a board acting together to set that up and set the agenda, and then led by the president. Does that answer your question?
Richard, we have a number in chat, a number of comments from Crystal regarding the Pacific, because they have different entities in regards to legal entities in regards to running. I'm wondering, Crystal, you might like to come on. There's 3 big areas I've looked at, and there may be also those others from the islands.
Just while Crystal maybe is coming on, Crystal, feel free to unmute yourself and talk to those points, but I'll just read kind of what she's generally spoken about. So she's first of all made a comment, Crystal, who made a comment about sharing the roles within the clubs and the challenges with people who are expats. And was that Crystal? Are you there?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'll let you.
Link there for a second. Yeah, I guess I was just commenting on maybe just some of the challenges. So one of the things that was mentioned before is that some of the clubs in New Zealand, Australia have a difficult time engaging with Fiji and other islands in regards to partnering and giving. And so I think one of those challenges is around actually what we're talking about. It's this administrative stuff, and some of the roles are quite overwhelming. Secretary roles very overwhelming in the amount of time that it takes to actually, say, go to the bank and get a check cleared, cash a check, actually get a bank account set up for online banking. For us to even pay dues can be quite a challenge. So it's often very challenging. And after a while, I have noticed that, not necessarily just in our club, I've talked to some others, that people just kind of it's too much, so they really start to pull back on it. And when we need to do reporting for things, it's often, it just can't be, it just can't be done very well. So I just wanted just to comment on that. I know that many people are aware, but I was just putting it out there. I'm from Canada. I've been a Rotarian for almost 20 years, and The experience here is nothing like I've experienced before. I'll tell you that.
Thank you, Crystal. Yes, I know Club Runner is a problem for the Pacific clubs. It's also a problem for New Zealand clubs. I can talk about that in a little while at the end. Okay, so are people comfortable? Has this helped you understand perhaps more of what you can do as well as probably need to do? Okay, all right, let's just move on a bit.
Just to let you know, you've got about 10 minutes to go.
Yep. Okay. So the most important tool for the secretary, the board, and the club. Okay. Do I need to say anything more? If you don't have that, you are in big trouble. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So, from a Rotary point of view, the Rotary Learning Centre has a number of courses that are of relevance to you. There is a secretary module, and there are additional modules as well called strategic planning. There's a whole suite of products that will help you learn. They're broken up into 15 or 20-minute segments maximum. So you might have half a dozen modules in one course, and you can do all of them in one go if you've got an hour or so, or you can do one or two and then come back to that. It's modularized and it's very easy to do. And I do suggest that you guys have a look on the Learning Centre and go through them, especially because it's both a training and development one. You may be interested yourself in some of the aspects of the subjects that are talked about, and you can get an initial understanding of some of it. Now, there's also the club calendar document. Now, what I've done something just as a sample to show you. I'm just looking for it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, it's really, really simple. It's focused on actions because we are mana tangata, we are people of action. This is something not only as a tool that you can use, but you use it with the president and the board. And if you have your own club website, you can actually share it with the club. So it's really focused on critical things that are about running the club. So I've got in here, for example, the board meeting. You know, what it is that needs to be done, who's going to be doing it, and by when. And if you, as in life, if we are to make progress and go forward and being action oriented, those are really the only three questions. What is it that needs to get done? Who's going to do it? And when is it going to get done by? And if you have something like that you populate on a regular basis, it helps you and the board keep tabs on your progress. It means you don't forget things and you don't overlook things. And one of the items could be on there, could be a regular mental jog that says, has the treasurer paid the bills? Okay, that's your glue roll. So, you know, so for example, okay, you're not doing their job. What your job is the oil and the glue. And the reason I bring that up is because in my role as the ROSOPS admin, I invoice a truckload of clubs for a lot of things. And you would not believe the number of clubs that have told me is, oh shit, I was away for a while and we don't have a board meeting till next month. Well, sorry guys, this is the 21st century. We are not ladies and gentlemen who meet occasionally and decide to pay a bill. When you have a contractor or somebody who comes to your home to do something, he writes you an invoice where the terms and conditions are I get paid within 7 days. So you would not believe the number of treasurers that I have to deal with who can't pay bills on time. So if you treat it, and you can do it month by month, so also you can actually help the board and the club focus on the activities or plan ahead for the theme for the month. So August, the Rotary theme is membership and new club development. And in September, it's basic education and literacy. So if you have a club program around education and literacy, perhaps it's really good in July to have a couple of action points around the projects and what you're doing, because it has to be done before you reach the time that you want to do it. So that's just a mental jog. That's really all I intend to show you there, just as a mental jog. And at that point, the two critical questions, and I will take off the share for that so you can see that. So has this been useful? Has it helped broaden your understanding of the role?
Yeah, we've got a lot of heads nodding here, I think.
You muted, Dill.
Oh, I was about to say, well presented, very concise and to the point, Richard, very professional. Thank you.
I guess I was just wondering if there was any kind of more practical questions from people. I mean, a couple of really basic ones, because I don't know anything about secretary role, that I had is, where do we access, we have to read our constitution, so where do we access that?
And Suva's comment that they always have the president and the secretary role first, I think is just fantastic. In terms of strategic planning and keeping the way forward, I think it's first class, absolutely. Mm. All right.
In answer to your question, Ursula, the Council of Legislation and Rotary meets every 2 years. There's a standard constitution for Rotary, and then you have the club bylaws, which is what time you meet and how frequently. And often the international constitution's upgraded every 2 years or 4 years or 6 years. Mm. And this year, the AGs, I'll be sending them out the latest constitution so that the clubs can update it. And it does vary by country. Like French law is a lot different to New Zealand law. Mm. And the Pacific Islands are a lot different to New Zealand.
And are the bylaws for the clubs, thanks Steve, held online anywhere, or like are they entered into?
The club secretary should have the bylaws.
Yes. Yep.
Because it's passed at a club assembly.
Crystal, you should be able to access your presidential citation data in Rotary Club Central. It's integrated into Rotary Club Central for your club. Okay. I'm conscious of time. I've got a couple of minutes here. Club runner. This bears on fundamentally how clubs operate today. Club Runner, as a Canadian-based app, is a lot more than just a website. Most clubs, I've got about 90 clubs in New Zealand and the Pacific who are on Club Runner. It's actually far more than just a website. It's actually an operational management tool. The trick is you have to adapt and change the way you operate. I have this discussion with a lot of clubs all of the time. For a lot of Rotary today in the age group that we've got involved in, that they don't see the need because they don't need it very much, and they're not as technology savvy as the younger generation. The fundamental issue is that if Rotary is going to grow and continue, our membership is now coming from anybody who is, for example, 40 and below. All of those people operate on this, okay? It's a do it now generation. They'll talk about it, they'll go look on the thing, they'll go look on the website, or they'll go to the site and they'll do it on the spot. It's do it now and do it once. And if they can't do it on the phone, it's not going to get done. So the point about Club Runner is that it's actually a club operational tool, but it does require a radical shift in the way you operate. So if you were to consider it as your new operational tool, it's very good value for money because it's built for Rotary to run Rotary. If you treat it just as a website and or an e-bulletin, then it's very expensive. Rosops is bringing up a new platform, a full ERP platform that has website capability. We've got rather too much on the go at the moment, but we also have to develop synchronization with RI as well. But we're intending to bring up a New Zealand-based platform that clubs can have, New Zealand-based, Pacific-based Rotary clubs, which would be far cheaper because you won't be dealing with the US dollar, and being out of Rotary, it's about meeting the costs, not a profit margin. We're probably a year away from that, but we are looking to create the platform that Rotary clubs can use just as a simple website. And I'll pause at that point there.
Wonderful. So any final questions, any comments or final questions anybody has for Richard before he goes?
Sean.
Oh, Sean, there you go.
I just had a question, and it's sort of also a membership question, but also a Club Runner question. If you wanted to set up sort of a Friends of Rotary system with subscriber lists and that sort of thing, is that something that Club Runner can do, or should that be run through another? Should that be run through another system?
Probably needs to be run through another. Club Runner is really focused on the Rotary Club, Rotaract Club, Satellite Club. Well, not even the Satellite Club metaphor. It does have an embedded contact list, and you can then use the bulletin function within Club Runner to create a mailing list that you would pick up the contacts. So yes, there is a workaround. It's not built that way. It's not built like a MailChimp and a Hail2, but using the contact module where you build specific contacts in there that are not Rotary members, you can create the essence of a set of friends, a friendship group of emails, and create the bulletin, but you can create specific newsletters for it because you create your own templates. So you can create as many templates as you want.
Richard, there's a comment around Club Runner app doesn't load really well in Fiji, and I'm assuming it's because of the system.
I think that's an internet issue.
Okay.
It's probably a local internet issue as much as the international bandwidth as well.
Okay, Whānau, 2:51. I need you to have a break before we have the Treasury part.
Yes, and I guess I'd like to, I'll finish by thanking Richard. I've found that really, yeah, as Dale mentioned, a really succinct and informative talk. I found it quite interesting listening to how you've described the role and the importance of being oil in the glue, and noted a number of different kind of, I guess, personality traits perhaps that would be, you know, right for this role. Things, you know, you've talked about being objective and being an organized, detail-orientated person, the importance of planning. So I think the people that are coming to this role, if they have any experience in any other facet of their life, being that kind of, you know, doing those kind of things, they're probably already set up to succeed, I would say. So just to remind people that they're also drawing on their own experience and strengths in that regard. And yeah, just thanks a lot for such an informative and, you know, a new perspective that encourages us all to think differently and strive for excellence in that role. So thanks a lot, Richard. And I guess everyone, if you could join me in a round of applause or some sort of, yes, we've got a lot of clap going. Silent clapping for you, Richard.
I have a quick question for Richard.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Rajiv.
Richard, if we are moving to another platform, what happens to all the data that's sitting in the Club Runner?
If you have a club website, then unfortunately, it's not like copying it from one Word document to another. You have to rebuild the website. But if you don't have anything in your Club Runner website now, then there is nothing lost. But yes, moving to a new platform, you'd have to rebuild the website from scratch.
So we need to do a backup of the whole thing and then redo that.
Yes, so before you stop using it, you would make sure that you have a copy of every page, even if you just print it to PDF, and you know where the, if you want to continue to reuse some of the pictures and the images that you have on your website, then you need to be able to collect them together and have them available off that website.
Okay.
Yep.
And if there's any other questions that you want to put to Richard, we'll put his email and contact details for you to do that, and the PowerPoint will be available as the recording will be available to share with your clubs. We've got in the chat, if you want to hit that link and do a quick 3-question evaluation before you go and get your second cup of tea around the secretary role session, and then come back and we will be into the treasurer's role with Alan Eyes and Kai Hacker for the second session or third session of our afternoon, LED. Sean, in your hands. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our third session of the LED Day 1. Today we've got just learning about the district treasurer, the club treasurer role, and we're going to have Alan Eyes and Kai Hacker to speak about it. Alan is the district finance administration and audit chair, and Kai Hacker is the district treasurer. And there'll be time for questions at the end and possibly throughout. So I'll let you guys take over.
Lovely. Thank you, Sean. And hello, everyone. Thanks for making time. Alan, there we go. In the car, we can see part of you. Today, we want to be really interactive. So please do ask questions and interject as we go through. Either use the chat and you can write them and we can talk to them, or just unmute yourself and have a chat. So it's really about making sure that we've answered as many of your questions as we can. And as Alan and I were laughing about yesterday, there's many people on this call that know far more about the role of club treasurer than either he or I do. So we want those of you who have maybe done this role in previous years as well to get involved and fill the gaps with us. I'll go ahead and share screen now and present, and we can take you through. There we go. All right, can everyone see that all right? Some thumbs up. Fantastic, thank you, Edith. And Edith, if you want to help MC and people do have questions in the chat, please do. That would be great. All right, so I'll just jump right in, but I guess a little bit of framing. We'll take you through a number of sessions and sections here around what the role of club treasurer looks like, what your duties are within the club, how that interacts with other parts of the club. We've got let's go into insurance and compliance a little bit, other fun pieces like that. And then at the end, we've got a bunch of sort of further resources that I think are quite useful. So I guess before we jump into the role of treasurer specifically, the role of treasurer is very much part of the overall leadership team. And while there's specific duties within the treasurer role, it's also important that the treasurer makes the full leadership team aware of the responsibilities in regards to finance and compliance. And it's actually a reasonably complex space that we operate in. So there's sort of club responsibilities. There's often trust, which is separate to the club. Taxation, understanding the role of incorporated societies and charities, and then how that all connects in with the district and the district financial, I guess, aspects, Rotary International, and the foundation. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and the role of treasurer is, I guess, the role of all club leaders is understanding that landscape and pulling it all together. Specifically, treasurers are in charge of the club's finances, as you might have guessed. That is the day-to-day of managing the finances, but it's also ensuring good financial stewardship. And that's the role of making sure that the leadership team as a whole is taking care of the finances and understands their roles and responsibilities there. Also, I guess a big call out is that the role of treasurer isn't just for your term. It really starts before you become club treasurer, and it starts afterwards. And so I guess where we often see breakdowns happening and having to go in and play cleanup is when there hasn't been a really good sort of smooth handover between outgoing roles and ingoing roles. So new treasurers on the call, please make sure that you make friends with the existing treasurer and make sure that you're prepared to really onboard and train up the whoever comes after you in your role. That's a big part of this. All right, now we'll get a little more interactive here. So treasurers and leadership teams, what do you think are some ways that you can best ensure that the club president and the board are aware of the finance and governance and compliance responsibilities for our clubs?
People can share or put in chat, raise hand.
All right, Alan, maybe I'll pick on you since we don't seem to have anyone jumping in just yet. Alan, what do you think are some ways that clubs can do this?
Crystal has her hand raised, Kai.
Oh, fantastic. Go for it.
Hi.
Hello.
So one of the things with treasurers in my past, and that yes, general club management of finances, but what about for projects? So for instance, we need to ensure that project reporting is clear. So we might have 3 projects and we have lots of receipts coming in. And in small clubs, it seems that, right, the treasurer is the one who kind of needs to keep track and make sure we know which, you know, there's a column for each expense for each project. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks. Good question, Crystal. I have had nothing to do with any club project tracking. So is there anyone else on the call who has some familiarity with project budgets and management of those, who might have some pointers? Crystal, you seem to be on your own, unfortunately.
So often what's handy is that that there's somebody who's a project chair or lead, and they would keep track of these things and submit it to the treasurer, which in an ideal world works best because the treasurer has a lot to do. But often that doesn't happen. So it does end up falling on the treasurer's shoulders. I mean, the whole board, but then it often is a bit overwhelming. So I guess my recommendation, just to put it out there, that in clubs where they have many projects, is that whoever is in charge of that project lead or chair, that they help out the treasurer by keeping track of their own expenses, keeping copies, but also ensuring that a report or summary goes up to the treasurer, so they can be assisted in keeping the finances and reporting out straight for everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. I think that's a really good call. The role of,
I can perhaps come in there, Kai. And sorry, I'm not in an ideal location, so you may be getting a bit of background noise.
no,
By
you
all
sound
means,
all good.
Yeah, I mean, it's really encouraging, Crystal, to think that we have clubs that have the problem or potentially have the problem you're outlining with a number of large projects going on. And by all means, to be able to tap in to other members of the club and people who are involved in those projects to assist. But I think at the end of the day, the treasurer is effectively the chief financial officer. And it's important that they are keeping an overview as to what's happening and certainly controlling the funds going out, and having very good overview of what's coming in, and that it is all coming in and being accounted for. But with the outgoing, that there is adequate documentation, and that is retained, be it in hard copy or preferably these days by soft copy, that the money that is being expended has been appropriately approved. And I realise that could vary by the projects where there might be a degree of delegation. But at the end of the day, the treasurer's role is, as I say, as chief financial officer to ensure that all funds are accounted for, money's being spent, are properly spent, and that it is accounted for and under the appropriate headings. We'll perhaps talk a little bit later also about, we're talking about club events here, but how this might interact with the trust, which needs to be seen as a totally separate organisation. But I think Kai will touch on that a bit later.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. I think good call on both parts. That the role of treasurer is very much the governance of the finances of the club. Doesn't mean that the treasurer necessarily needs to do all of it, depending on the size of the club and the complexities and what roles you have. Other people may be involved, but it very much comes back to the treasurer to make sure that you're comfortable with the finances of the club. And I guess in terms of how do you best ensure the rest of the leadership of the club are aware of their governance and compliance responsibilities? That really is the role of treasurer. So whether that is your regular meetings, whether that is email, the treasurer should own the compliance calendar and essentially be raising this to make sure that it is on the agenda when you guys are you're having your club meetings. To dig in a little bit further here around treasurer responsibilities, if you're new to the role, make sure that you have an adequate brief from your predecessor. Work closely with the president, secretary, board. Make sure everyone is fully informed, including yourself, about what's going on. If you have a trust treasurer, most clubs also have a separate charitable trust. We'll get into that a little bit later. You may be the treasurer of both the trust and the club. Ensure that you're aware of which hat you have on if you're in both of those roles. If you're only in one of those roles, make friends with whoever is in the other one. Your job as treasurer is to invoice and collect monies and to pay outgoings once they're authorized. I think all clubs at this point should have dual signatures required to process payments out of the account. If you take on your role as treasurer and realize that's not in place, highly recommended that you get that in place. Responsible for monthly financial reporting to the board. Also to make sure that fundraising activities, that the proceeds of that are donated to a registered charitable trust, often the trust of the club or whatever trust is you're doing the fundraising on behalf of. It's also important, obviously, at the end of the financial year, that the annual accounts have been prepared and either audited or independently reviewed. Your club will have your own process on that, but make sure that there is one. And then obviously to file tax and other returns. And we'll get into what some of those other returns might be in the compliance section.
Kai, I think it'd perhaps be interesting to get some feedback as to how New Zealand clubs are now faring with the banks, with operating with online banking, with dual signatories. For those in the Pacific Islands, in case you're not aware, checks are virtually a thing of the past in New Zealand now. And so we're all into online banking.
Absolutely, thank you, Alan. Sean, I see a hand raised.
So we've used exclusively, what do you call them? Online banking for our club because we're young millennials. It's the easiest part is making the payments because you can just do that from either from your desktop computer or your smartphone. The main obstacle is one, getting the bank account set up, and secondly, adding new users. Certainly with we use BNZ, we find that they are there is some difficulty, and even once you've submitted the documents to BNZ. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say don't underestimate the time required to add new signatures to a bank account. Absolutely, we've been caught up by that before. Thank you, Sean. Steve, I see hand raised there.
Yeah, we were with the ANZ Bank, and we actually had the bank manager in our club, and the ANZ won't have two signatory online system for incorporated societies, so we had to switch banks, and we tried both the BNZ and the ASB, and they were similar sort of, as Sean says, it's quite a lengthy process to get people registered and on, you know, with passports and driver's licenses and all sorts.
Absolutely.
But we're completely online. We have been for a while.
Yeah, good.
So Steve, just as a matter of interest, is that working with a token system?
Yeah, yes. And I work for other, or help out other incorporated societies, and both the ASB and the BNZ both work on a token system, and it's very effective.
Fantastic. All right. Jumping on to club structure as a quick overview. So all New Zealand-based clubs are incorporated societies. They're not charitable entities. Important to note. Many are registered for GST, which means you need to charge it. They are subject to income tax. If they make a tax, you need to pay, or make a profit, you need to pay tax on that. And clubs should donate assessable income to a registered charity to make sure that you're not paying tax. Most clubs have an associated charitable trust, which is a completely separate entity from the club. And trustees can be personally liable for the dealings of the trust. So they don't have the same limited liability that an incorporated society might have. Trust should not run events. And I believe trust should not run events because if the event goes bad and there's money is left owing at the end of it, it will fall on the trustees themselves. Separation of club and trust is important, but not always recognized as important. Love to hear from some of the people on the call how you and your club make sure that you're aware of when you're, you know, what's going on through the club versus what's going on through the trust, and how you keep that separation clear. Or maybe some stories of when it wasn't so clear and what happened.
Brian. You're on mute, Brian. Need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, you can hear me now, all right?
Yep.
Good work, Edith.
Sure can.
I don't know if Richard's still on the line, but for Kyle and Richard, I think this is an important thing for us to clear up. We're approaching, and I don't want to get into too much detail, but Owen Glen for a donation of $30,000. And we want to make sure that Owen gets the advantage of a, if you like, a tax invoice that he can take it off as tax. In a club structure, which entity should he make the donation to?
Good question, Brian. Alan's probably the, my understanding is the trust, the charitable trust, but Alan, correct me if I'm wrong on that, please.
That would be the straightforward answer, Brian.
Okay, Alan.
The trust is definitely, the trust is a charitable entity and it can enter a seat. Now, while I said the straightforward answer, some of the clubs do have what's called donee status, which potentially covers that, but you're talking a substantial amount of money here. So if
Correct.
there are any questions with regard to whether it's appropriate to go into your trust or you want to look at other options, perhaps we take that offline and have the conversation.
Well, I am dealing with Richard, so I can take it up with Richard, Alan, and it's cropped up before, and one of the vehicles was make the donation to, in inverted commas, a charitable organisation like GCAF, and then GCAF can distribute the money how they wish.
But to pass it through the Rotary entity, you can certainly use your club's charitable trust.
Okay, thanks, Alan.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brian. Good question. Any other questions or thoughts or I see a hand from Sue.
Yeah, I'm Papakura Rotary. Our Rotary Club actually it's very much going back to your question about the separation of club and trust. It is very much separated. There is actually a procedure in place on the succession plan and who comes on and off the trust at any one time. That's a yearly rotation. Some are kept on, and so we have progressive people who have actually got a bit of experience, etc. President always sits on it, and also our principal trustee sits on the board. So anything that needs to be discussed at board level will be put to him, and then it will be minuted. But they hold separate minute books. A letter must go to the trust, vice versa, and it's very strictly adhered to, and it actually works very, very well. So there's a complete separation in the club between the trust operation and the day-to-day operation of the Rotary Club, and there's the communication between the two, which is basically audited every year.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. That's great. That's from my perspective very much best practice. And having them as separate entities with their own leadership, acting differently, and then with the agreement about how they work together. So thank you for that.
That sounds like a textbook operation there at Papakura, Sue. And for those that were on the earlier call at 2:00, for the secretaries, fits in very much with the discussion that took place there. At Pukekohe, we're fortunate where we have Murray Kay, who's a lawyer, and he's looked after the trust side of things for a number of years and ensures that there's that separation between the board and the trust. And I think just to reinforce this point that trustees have a personal responsibility, and as came out at the 2:00 call, sometimes there will be questions and sometimes approaches may need to be taken which aren't necessarily fitting within the wishes of the board. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and if it's all communicated appropriately at the early stages, it'll avoid those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, the trustees do have a personal responsibility.
Thank you. All right. Quick few pieces here on club compliance. We're not going to get into them in too much detail, but there's some really good resource that Bruce Howe put together that addresses these. So at a minimum, you must file a tax return every year as a club unless you derive only exempt income. And that tax return is due within 3 months of the end of the club's financial year. Your club, at least in New Zealand, will be an incorporated society, and you are required to hold AGM in which the accounts are presented to your members for approval. Your annual return and accounts are then required to be filed within 1 month of that AGM. And then your club trust is required to file an annual return and accounts with charity services within 6 months of the end of the financial year. Also note that there's a minimum content of what needs to be in that annual return, and that's prescribed by law. So make sure the minimum content is in there. There'll be a great link at the end of this to a lot more information about all of these. Any questions or comments at this point before we keep charging on?
Yes, I have a comment. If I can ask a question, please.
Yes, please.
Who is responsible for filing the trust accounts? Is that surely is not on the responsibility of the club, not being, as they are not trustees of the charitable trust. It would be their responsibility, surely.
That's right, Dal. Hopefully the teams are working together, but yes, the responsibility falls squarely on the trustees. And if the charitable trust has a trust treasurer or someone who is in that role on their plate to make sure that gets done.
Follow-up question. Is there any reason why the treasurer of the club and the trust cannot be one and the same person?
No, they can be the same person. But if in cases like that, it's important to make sure that they understand when they're wearing the hat of the club treasurer versus that of the charitable trust.
Okay.
So I think often they are the same person in some clubs, but they definitely don't need to be.
Okay. Thank you, Kai.
Thank you, Dal. Any other questions or comments at this point? Great.
Lee, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Kai, when you mentioned filing reports within 1 month, are you referring to the reports that would go to the registered societies, the registrar of societies?
That's a good question. Alan, do you know if that's specific on there? I would imagine the detail of this is in the in Bruce's information pack.
You certainly need to file, Lee, within 6 months of year end. I just not sure of the detail. If, for example, you manage to hold your AGM in September with the year end of June, whether you have to file then by the end of October or whether you've got to the end of December. We can clarify that and send it out with the notes.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. All right, any others at this point? Cool. All right, to jump into trustee responsibilities a little bit. So if in your role as a treasurer, you are also the treasurer of the trust, you're most likely a trustee, and you have some key duties as outlined here. I won't read them out. One of them is also to keep core documents, which is often the role of the trustee, of the treasurer trustee. And there are a number of core documents that you need to make sure that you have.
Yeah. Kai, perhaps if I can just come
Yes,
in
please.
here, that probably many people on the call are aware that in New Zealand there was a new Trust Act came into place end of January this year. And coincidentally, the Institute of Chartered Accountants held a online lunchtime session on Friday, which I sat into, because that was specifically dealing with trusteeship for a charitable trust. So it covered a whole wide range of entities, but those two slides that Kai's just put up were a couple of samples from that pack. I found it very interesting session, not only from Trust for Rotary, but wider. And I think the link for that will be coming up on the Trustee Services website some stage in the future. So if I can get that link, we will circulate it. But some of the factors that are applying to trusts in general, one of those is communicating regularly with all the beneficiaries. Those sort of provisions don't apply to charitable trusts. So in case some of you are getting into conversations and getting a little bit worried about that particular point in particular, it was quite comforting to hear that. So we obviously haven't got time to go into all of the details here, but that next slide, Kai, if you just flick back to that, it does just make us all as trustees, whether in whatever organisations we're trustees of the sort of information and the continuity of information that needs to be available. And certainly from a Rotary point of view, very much applies as well. And it comes back to some of the work that Richard and Rosops are doing around document retention. And I think if we can have the systems within Rotary to get these things online, it's going to make everybody's life easier than keeping files that perhaps almost need to be kept indefinitely, bearing in mind that as trustees, we're taking those roles on personally. It's not just a Rotary responsibility that gets passed on at the end of the year.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. There we go. Any questions or comments on the trustees' duties or the role of the trust in relation to the club? All right, I will hop on. Is Craig on today? This is Craig's favorite topic generally.
I think probably I will talk on that, and then Richard will come along and help me out with further comments and any questions. Yeah, a bit of history here. That when it came to renewing the policies, 12, 18 months ago, and from some of the good work from DG Craig, there were deficiencies found in the processes throughout New Zealand, and particularly with the insurances we had, and gaps found to be there. Cut a very long story short, insurances for district and clubs have changed during the last year, and we could have a whole session on this, and it may very well be that we should do one of those some stage over the coming weeks or months. But basically, it's been necessary to move from that one policy that covered district and all clubs and clubs without doing anything, specifically to just a master policy, but clubs needing to have their own policy. And some of this is only just starting to cement into place over the last few months. Now, this has two implications. One is that returns are required and specific steps taken by clubs to take out or renew policies. So that means annual declarations. The good thing there is that the master policy that's been negotiated allows for cover for a club, but also for one charitable trust, or so for most clubs, that's their Rotary trust. The downside of this is that it's a separate financial transaction, and the cost for that is $500 or $550 per year plus GST. Now, as I say, we could have a session on insurances alone, but the links that are included here provide some of this background information that I've gone through. and also provide some Q&A on the subject. So before we perhaps open up for any questions on that, is there anything, Richard, that I've missed out that you think should be added?
No, Alan, that's that's very, very good. That's fine. The links are the key places to go to for the documents to download. I think the one extra piece that I would add for the clubs to understand is that the policy that has been offered to the clubs is a double banger, and you don't tend to pay attention to it. But for the premium, the policy will cover not only your club but your club trust. You just have to make sure when you sign the declaration that you include your trust. Otherwise, it won't be there because it's an opt-in one. We can't automatically assume that you want to do that. You might not have a club trust. So there has been considerable comment around the cost of doing that. If you're going to insure your club trust, which is mostly comes down to the fiduciary element for sticky fingers or oopses or theft, look at it from the point of view that your club and your trust can split the premium between the two of you. And for the amount of money involved as Rotary and our clubs get back out into the world with their club projects and what have you, and the fundraising, the amount of money required, which is $260 per entity, is not a lot in terms of the budget around costs associated with running a project. And by the time you've run 3 or 4 projects, it's almost zero. So I just wanted you to have that in mind. One of the key problems with the previous policy was the lack of ability to get the declarations and the fact that it was one cover for all clubs. So the liability limitations, so for example, the public liability, which might have been, was I think 5 million, was spread across all 52 clubs in your district. So from a risk management point of view, which I talked about previously, from a risk management point of view, that's pretty poor, assuming that you might not have too many claims. You only need 2 claims today with a major project, and all of a sudden the rest of the clubs in the district would be out of cover because you'd hit the policy limit. The new arrangement means every club gets its own policy limits to the full amount. Thanks, Alan.
That's great. Thank you, Richard and Alan. The top link here has a huge amount of information, so I would definitely recommend that everyone go and familiarize yourself with the information that's on that page. Any questions on insurance?
Gal has a question, if I may. Who is the go-to person on district for to ask questions and to seek clarification?
That's a good question, Del. I'd probably say Craig Horrocks at this point. But Richard and Alan, you guys have a Richard, I would imagine, also knows quite a bit around the where insurance is at.
Yep. If you've got an organizational question, and I've got to be careful here of the Financial Service Provider Act, who's allowed to provide advice and what kind of advice.
That's the question, yes.
If you have a general question, I can help you. If you have a specific question, I will direct you to Apex and Darren, who is the broker. They are the people who will clarify anything specific around cover or no cover or conditions required. But as we get those questions and learn them, I try and build up the Q&A so that it becomes a set of public information that's available.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Del. Rajiv. Oh, you're on mute, Rajiv.
I have a question with regard to the insurance as well. How do we get hold of the policy document, and how do we find out if we have got the cover or not?
The policy documents are on behind that link, Rajiv.
Okay.
You will need to have a chat with me. With the Pacific, there will be a specific arrangement with the insurer because there are laws around who can insure within certain administrations. That's countries. So yes, if you want it, talk to me, and we will work with Apex to get the right information for you for Fiji. There are only certain admitted insurers in Fiji, and AIG, who is the underwriter to our policy, has a partner that operates in Fiji.
No, my question was relating to New Zealand.
Okay, so the documents are behind that link, the policy documents and also the specifics further down. If you look at that page, go to that page.
Wonderful. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Rajiv. Other questions on insurance? No, all right, fantastic. One of the fun jobs of club treasurer is also billing your club members for their club dues and including their Rotary International dues and their district dues. This information will all be sent out. You may already be aware of it, but these are the dues for the year. Obviously, they're the dues that go to Rotary International, which are in US dollars. Those are billed in 2 installments throughout the year. There is the magazine subscription, Rotary Down Under, billed twice during the year, and then the district 9920 Rotarian levy that is billed in August. Rotaractors have a smaller separate fee down at the bottom. As treasurer, you'll need to make sure that when you're taking into account your club dues for the year, that you take into account these as well, which will get invoiced to each club based on the number of members that you have in Club Runner, I believe.
Kai, can I perhaps just comment there with regard to the District 9920 levies? That comes from District Governor-elect Steve's budget, and while in the past that has been put to clubs as part of these development sessions each year, under the new constitution, there's a new process for dealing with that and a separate approval by clubs. So that will be happening now over the next few weeks. That the amounts shown there are the same as the current year, and with myself and DGE Steve working together, this is the amounts that we're proposing to put forward for formal ratification. Sorry for all the noise in the background, and I'm going to have to leave you very shortly.
Thank you, Alan. All right. Any questions on the district international levies or the RDU subscription?
Yes, for the RI, it's still asking the question. For the RI dues of dollar US $71, what is the exchange rate that's stipulated to get it to New Zealand dollars?
That's a good question, Dal.
That gets set, Dal, on a monthly basis from memory. Yeah.
And where do you find it, Alan?
It will be, I would expect it will be on the invoice. It's a while since I've looked at one of those, but also we're setting up a mechanism working with District 9940, and Richard may know a little bit about this as well, so that we can, and for New Zealand clubs anyhow, we can pay the money into a 9940 bank account, and they will remit that through. So we'll be sending, Bruce Howe will be sending out information on that
Well,
in July.
What I'm thinking about is what to allow in the setting of the annual sub for members.
Oh, okay. We can look up. Richard's just put in the chat that they do set it every month, which is my understanding.
Yeah.
I mean, the current published rate is around about 72, 73. Exactly what the RI rate is, I'm not sure. But I think if you're putting a number in the early 72 cents New Zealand for a US dollar, you won't be far away.
Okay,
If I could,
thank you.
I'll add a bit to that, Alan. There's a couple of traps here. I'm by no means an economist or a prognosticator, but because I'm dealing with the foundation all the time, the exchange rate, the US exchange rate so far this year has oscillated somewhere between 0.68 and about 0.72. At the moment, I'm budgeting conservatively at around 0.69. Now, the trick is here, and it's not obvious on most websites, is you have to budget on what's called the US buy rate. When you go to a website, most of them are displayed in terms of what's called the bank sell rate. But when you're trying to pay RI dues, you're actually buying US dollars. And the buy rate is lower than the typically quoted rates in the media. And if you want, I can show people on the screen right now. So, you know, by the time we get to June, and it's currently around 0.69, 0.7, you know, if you were conservative at 0.69, you would be within cooey, I would say. So barring any major developments between now and the 1st of July.
Okay, thank you.
If you like, I'll bring that up.
I think actually, just in order of time here, we probably need to. I just got the I got the nod from Sean here.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. There will be, guys, another time for questions at 5, I believe. So if you do have any more questions, please do that. If you just put the evaluation link in the chat as well. But thank you to Kai and to Alan for a very informative discussion. I see, Kai, you've put up some more links there.
Yeah, these resources are phenomenal. And so we'll make sure that this slide pack goes out. And I would highly encourage everyone to familiarize yourself with these links. And then obviously, if there's any questions, Alan or myself at the bottom, and then also Bruce Howe is a huge source of knowledge.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys. So we'll let everyone go. I know Del and Rajiv, you've got questions. But the rest of you, if you want to stay for the questions, that's great. Or if you want to go and get a cup of tea, that's great as well. And we'll see you back here at 4 p.m. for the youth and young adult session. Cheers.
Lovely. Thanks, guys. Rajiv, go for it.
Yeah, my question was, can we pay in USD rather than worry about the exchange rate?
That's a good question.
I don't think so. The account that 40 set up and is working with 20 on is all New Zealand denominated.
Lovely. Thank you, Richard.
But you will be able to pay to RI direct in US dollars.
Oh, correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The reason the arrangement is being set up, and yes, I'm aware of it, Alan, Rosox has been approached, and 9940 got sufficiently pissed off with the situation that they've just decided to do it themselves. And the reality is that so many clubs have problems paying directly in US dollars, because at the end of the day, most clubs tend to have to tap somebody for their own personal credit card. And RI is perpetually following up on clubs with late dues. And now RI is applying penalties if you're sufficiently late. So the new arrangement that 20 is getting into with 40 is hopefully, like Club Runner, making it a focus of a New Zealand invoicing effort where local people are talking to local people, and you get it fixed faster and easier. and being in a local New Zealand bank account, you can pay using your standard internet banking.
Lovely. Thank you, Richard. Dell.
Thank you. My question relates to the links for the resources that's currently showing on my screen. I think I heard it said that these are going to be sent out. Is that right, Kai?
I think they probably should be. What's the best way for us to do that?
Well, that's my question. How do they get to me?
You need to access these, Dale, via the Learning and Development site. And these resources will be on there, the recording as well as the PowerPoints.
Yeah, that's the RI site, is it?
No, this is our site. This is our Learning and Development site. All of these links will take you directly to this information.
So where do I find your Learning and Development site?
Go to our Rotary website, go to Member and Learning and Development drop-down menu. And happy to go through that with you if you are having trouble.
Okay.
Is that on the District 9920 website?
Correct.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dal.
It's just a matter of knowing where to go.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of places to look.
Yeah, you can spend half an hour looking, still not find it.
Absolutely. All right. Looks like that's all the questions. I think the last piece here was just to, I guess, make sure that you've taken what you've learned today. And for those of you joining as new treasurers, make sure that you write down some next steps in terms of where you're going to go to find additional information, who in your club you're going to make sure you have conversations with, get the bank signatory process started sooner rather than later, that sort of thing. All right, I guess that's us. Edith, I'll hand it back over to you and Sean.
Thanks, Kai. Cool. And the number one rule is any questions direct to Kai or Alan is a great way to get information.
Absolutely. We'll either know or we'll find out.
Correct. Thank you. Okay, we're going to come back on just after 4 whānau for our final session on youth. So thank you very much. Have a stretch. Get away from your laptops so you don't have Zoom glue. And so we're then back into the last session with youth. And I see the lovely Peter Ross is waiting in the wings. Kia ora everyone. Well done.
Well done.
Well done. Cool.
All right, Peter, do you want me to do it or you want to do it?
Well, I will introduce Aini Kwok to you all if you don't know her. She is the powerhouse behind the youth team. So I'm going to turn it over to Aini. Go.
All right.
Okay, Aini, let's just wait one moment. I'm just checking everyone's back in the room. Well done to get us to here. Let me just do a check. 403. Cool. Okay. Okay, Kanu Te Mihi Kia Koutou, final session LED 2021, part 1. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the final session for the afternoon, which is the youth program session, and it will be a group effort between Aini Kwok, who is the deliverer of a number of youth programs across our district, and Peter Ross and the team. So welcome, Annie and Peter, over to you.
Okay.
Right, Aini, where you go.
All right, so everybody knows who I am. I'm Aini, Rotary Club of Purukawa Coast Passport Club currently. And so our team this year, or for the coming Rotary year, you will have Peter Ross. Where is my control now? So we have the district chair, Peter Ross, whom everybody have known. George, is George there? And we have Mike, who's understudying a lot of events around for us. Mike Ellison is with the Rotary Club of Newmarket.
And our interesting combination at the moment now, or rather the one that we're trying out, and we're bringing a whole lot of new blood into the youth team, which is where we've been trialing and we've been going, as the RIPEN chair for 2022 next year will be Bogdan. Bogdan is driving, so I'm not sure whether he's online. He can't
I'm
see
here.
it. You can't. Oh, very good. All right.
I think
Bogdan?
I'm here.
Okay, and Tim Wilcox. So I'm just going to let Bogdan in for about 5 minutes for him to give a bit of a spiel about himself. And in school liaison, which is a new thing that we're starting, which is something that I have been doing for the last few years, is Ariana Andrews. Are you there, Ariana?
Yes, I'm here. Hey.
Oh, thank you. And Isabella Clark, are you there, Is?
Yep, I'm here as well.
Oh, jolly good. And we have Craig. Craig, are you there?
Yep, I'm here, Annie.
Oh, very good. So these are the 4 teams. So can I just get all of them to say 5 minutes about themselves and what they, how they're involved in? Okay, go. Bogdan, over to you, mate.
Yep, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Bogdan. I'm sorry it's a bit noisy. I had to stop on the side of the road, have a quick chat. So like Heini said, I'm going to be the chair for this, for RIPEN 2022. And I'm really excited about it. I was part of the team leader in the RIPEN 2021. And it was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed it. And I'm happy that I can be a part and maybe change people's lives, some kids' lives next RIPEN. I'm really excited. I've been a part of Rotary Rotaract family for 9 years now. Joined in Romania, then I moved to UK, joined the club there. And when I came to New Zealand, of course, I wanted to be part of this amazing family. In 2018, 2019, I was part of the RILA camp as well, which was an amazing opportunity. So I want to thank the Rotary Club for giving me that opportunity. And I learned a lot from that experience. It was amazing. We had like over 100 people get to learn from speakers, and just I from that moment, I also knew I wanted to be more involved in this youth programs. So with the help of Peter Ross and Amy here, I'll hopefully get the chance to do more, and I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, thanks, Bogdan.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, carry on driving back home.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
You can.
Thanks,
so then we have
Thanks,
Craig. Craig is also part of the RIPEN 2021 team leader. So Craig, over to you, mate.
Can you guys hear me? Good?
Yep.
Cool. Whakalawhalahi atu. My name is Craig Sianitato, and as Bogdan and some of the other team leaders here, I was a part of, luckily to be a part of the RIPEN team this year for 2021. Just my history around Rotary, so it has been quite fresh to the Rotary scene. I attended RILA with Bogdan, and I think it was a great opportunity there just to do something quite different to what I'm used to. And I think my appetite to join the RIPEN team to move forward I was really surprised to see the influx of our Pacifica community and our Māori community at our RIPEN this year. And I thought it would be great just to get into getting a bit more leadership into that for myself, especially moving into the 2022. I've also like to call myself Aine's brown face. I can just annoy her every week, so whatever she needs. But I think from me, just excited for what the future holds in this space, and here to help where needed.
Good, cool. Thanks a lot, Craig. And we'll have Ariana. Where are you, Ariana?
Hey there. So I'm Ariana. So yeah, I'm really excited to be helping out with RIPEN next year. So right now I'm studying public health, specializing in Māori health. And I first got involved with Rotary through a scholarship, which I was awarded in 2011 from Newmarket Rotary. And since then I completed RILA in 2013 and helped out with RIPEN earlier this year. And so yeah, like helping out with school liaison, I'm just really looking forward to continuing like the work Aine's done towards increasing like Māori and Pacific and like low decile school involvement in these types of programs. And just like really, it was really exciting kind of seeing the impact this had on the students' lives, and I'm really excited to do more work around it. So, kia ora.
Thanks, Ariana. And lastly, Isabella is.
Hi everyone, I'm Isabella Clark. I first heard about Ripon through Rotaract, where I was a member, and I also attended RILA, and I was also like part of the committee as a social media manager. But I'm excited to become a part of the school liaison team to help create more awareness about Ripon, because I really think it's a very, very amazing experience for young kids in school. I think it'll help them a lot in the future, and it also helps challenge us as leaders, and it helps us develop more. But yeah, looking forward to it. Cool.
Thanks, team. Okay, so that's the team. So now all of them will be overseen by myself, Peter, and of course George Wilson at the same time. Any questions, anybody?
Aini, would you just like to explain a little bit about the school liaison?
Okay, so what we're doing at the moment now with the school liaison is something that I have been doing informally for the last few years. It's a connection between how we engage with the schools, for the clubs to engage with the schools. A lot of times we hear clubs saying, oh, we don't, we never hear, we don't do anything with the schools. So what we're trying to do here in the school liaison is to have Ariana and Isabella, including myself, being involved with the school a bit more on the ground. So we go visit schools where we need to do, like, for example, visiting De La Salle College, for example, we visit them, see what they need, see how we can help them, and find a club that would like to support them. So basically, that's what we're trying to do. We are connecting the schools and the club together. Once they have formed a relationship, Ariana, myself, and Isabella will just step back and let the club carry on. So the school liaison person in this instance, Ariana, myself, and Isabella will do the introduction, will make all the first initial roadmap for the clubs, and then we bring the club in at a time. A good example is Aurora College and Newmarket. So Aurora College did not have any club supporting them, and I was involved with Aurora College for quite a while. And so through connecting Aurora and Newmarket, and now Newmarket now is supporting Aurora College in many different ways, like Ripon, National Science Forum, and other events. So that's what we're doing with the school liaison.
Can I just come in there for a minute, if I may? I think the other thing is that one of the things that we're trying to do using the trusts, the Chenery and the June Gray Trust, is to fund some of the low decile schools so they can attend the science forum. We did that just this last science forum with Aorere College, Sir Edmund Hillary, and De La Salle. And so that introduces them to a Rotary program that they maybe have not known about before, and which then actually gets them a bit more excited about the whole prospect. So that's helping out where clubs are not really connected with schools or vice versa. And then we're building the relationship through that. And that's what the girls are going to do. All right, Anya?
I'm cool. Now, some of the clubs may not know who their sponsored school is, or don't think that that's the right fit, or would like to take on another schools. All you need to do is to talk to Peter and I, and we're more than happy to allocate you with schools that needs to be looked after. So we have quite a number of schools in the South Auckland that do not have any clubs assisting them or looking after them.
We should just emphasize that these are secondary schools we're talking about here, not primary or intermediate schools.
Yeah. Okay. Right, Peter, do you want me to do this bit?
Well, you can do some of this. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we've got the first most popular event is the Raipen. So we've done Raipen many years, 25 years. And so for the last 4 years, the event have been run under the district banner rather than individual club run event. It's not that we don't think Rotary clubs can run it, but we think we like to bring in the new blood, meaning to say the new Ryla awardees like Ariana, Isabella, Craig, and a whole lot of them. There are about 16 of them that deliver the program on our behalf, and the Rotarians are just overseeing it to make sure that the plan, that they're executing it, and that's what we do. This year, the event was run solely 100%, except for Tim Wilcock and myself being there as just to oversee it. It was run by all the young leaders. So that's what we try to do. And for those who do not know what Raipen is, it's a weekend program. Lots of people like to think of it as mini Ryla, kind of like a mini Ryla. It's 2 nights, 3 days, and students come out from it buzzing with leadership and want leadership skills and a whole lot of making new friends. Peter?
I'll do this one. Ryder, this is the Rotary Youth Driver Awareness Program, and some of you will know about this perhaps. This has been running for some time. It's also run as a sort of a district thing, although it's run by Road Safety New Zealand. And this is a program which schools should get engaged with. And this will be another piece that the school liaison people will steps in their discussions with the school. We'll find out if there's any interest or any appetite for that. This is not an easy one to get started because it's quite a lot of logistics involved, but we'll see how we get on with that. But it's very important, Ryder, because of what it delivers, which is basically saving lives on the road. Next one.
National Science Forum.
Okay, National Science Forum. Well, most people know about the National Science Technology Forum. This is literally one of the only national programs that is run by Rotary across New Zealand. It's run basically in Auckland through 3 universities, and it really is a flagship event for Rotary. And all the schools that get to know about it are clamoring to be in this exercise. It's very difficult to get in. Very few schools get more than 2 people in, or as many as 2, in fact. So, Ani, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I do. Now, this is one of the, I like to call it as a product. It's one of the simplest. It's a product that you can take to a school, and the science department absolutely loved it. They really value this forum. Is viewed as a scholarship, and so if you, for example, do not have any connection with the schools, this is one of the tools that Ariana, the school liaison team, will actually take to a school and introduce it to them. It's one of the easiest thing to get a school connected to a Rotary club, and then from then on everything will just flow through. Youth exchange, Peter?
Well, actually, I think I see John Fothergill in there. Do you want to come in here, John? But you're in abeyance, aren't you? You're sort of retired at the moment. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, RI at the moment has ceased all youth exchange activity until at least July next year. So as a youth exchange team, we're doing nothing. And then I guess even if RI decides it's good to go, New Zealand still has to start issuing visas, and there's no indication they'll be doing that in a hurry either. And people that I've spoken to who work with international students at schools aren't expecting it for a couple of years beyond that. So yes, the committee is not doing a lot at the moment. We're not preparing anybody to go out. We're not preparing anyone. We're not expecting anyone in. And our last student went home January this year.
Thanks, John. Not just Challenge Camp, because Challenge Camp comes off the back of International Youth Exchange anyway. It's a camp where the international students go and look after students with disabilities. So that is also on hold as well. So enough said about that. It's covered in the book that will be on the website. So I don't think we need to talk much more about that.
Muna.
Okay, now Moona is another flagship program of ours, and it's going to run on the 28th and the 29th of May. So it's being led this year. It's also a district program being led by Pam Deal and Jan Malcolm. And we're hopeful that some of our young people that have been on here today will actually go along and join in with that as well. It's quite important that Ariana and Isabella get to see that, because that's another one of the programs that they'll be talking about when they go to the schools. But you can read about Moona in the booklet. The value of Moona is that teams go, and once again, as Aini said before, it's a product that you can talk to the schools about, that by and large they know about. The trick with this one though is there's 100 teams approximately that are allowed, and if the schools haven't got their applications in on time, quite a lot of them miss out. We're going to change the way that we allocate schools to Moona in the future, and try and make it a bit fairer. But this is also a program that we do jointly with 9910. So we get a lot of schools coming down from the north to participate in this, and that's really good. And we're going to get a 9910 Rotarian to join the our district committee for running Moona in the future. Aini.
Okay. There are a few of the team RILA, the RIPEN, we call them the RIPEN team leaders. That's now our leading RIPEN team leaders team that have been through to Moona, one of the participants. They are Rotaract, they've been to RIPEN, they are Rotaractor, they've been to RILA. So there are a couple of them that have gone through it, and one of them is Rambi and Mariam. And I think from memory, Bogdan, I'm not sure whether Bogdan's been through it. There is a value in getting the leaders, the young leaders involved in this as well, because then, you know, they can see it as a whole basket of Rotary products that we could give to the schools. RIPEN, what's in it for the teenagers? Ariana, you still there? Would you like to tell us, because you were in Pepakura with the students giving their feedback. Would you like to share us a bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So I went to Papakura, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and we just had a little get together with 4 students who were from Papakura High School and their principal. And it just gave an opportunity for each of the students to kind of say thank you to the club, and they each spoke a little bit about what they got out of it. And it was really nice seeing the different takeaways they each got, and how they were all at different stages of their own leadership journeys, but they'd also progressed. And one thing that they really appreciated getting out of it was just meeting students who they otherwise would not have encountered in their regular day-to-day lives, and just kind of recognizing similarities in their lives, and just kind of fostering those friendships and networks, and just kind of being more enthusiastic about taking up different roles and stuff that they wouldn't have otherwise considered.
So in terms of what's in it for the Rotarians, this is, yeah.
Okay. So for the Rotarians, I think they really enjoyed strengthening those connections with the schools. So when the principal came up, he also said a thank you to the club, and it's really nice because it's creating, you can see it's creating these long-term connections. And so moving forward, both like the club and the schools are going to be working together, and it's also kind of bringing in the different programs and kind of strengthening them. And it's just kind of like helping Rotary become even more a part of the community, and even more a part of intergenerational commitments. So like once these students, as they grow up, they'll still have these fond memories, they'll still be involved in Rotary programs in the future. And it's just kind of increasing the Rotary awareness and enthusiasm and support within the community.
So it's quite almost a hands-off all throughout the process of RIPEN. The Rotary clubs will be invoiced for $375 per student. Everything is done online, and the only involvement the club has with the students is to make sure that the students have got all their gears, they did the selection and making sure that the students are asked to come back to the club to present it, like what Ariana said. And Rotarians are more than welcome to visit the camp when we have it, because it's a lot different than what many of you would have seen in the last 20 years, in the last 10 years, because things have changed. We keep evolving it, we keep changing it. And next year, I think the plan would be a lot, the plan would be, the program that we have will be again modified to work it, to be more in line with the current environment that we have. The most important thing for anyone wanting to come to the event or to be part of RIPEN is to make sure that you do your police check, which is non-negotiable. You have to give me, and also completion of the Learning Center training module that complies with the youth protection policy. This is a photo of our this year's camp. We had 56 children or students and 21 schools and 16 leaders. Amazing.
I see Bogdan with a dress on there.
Where's Bogdan with the dress? Yes,
right.
I think, yeah. There's Isabella, Mariam, Craig, Fanga. These are the leaders. Some of the leaders are in between. Yeah. We had an amazing group. This one here. Right. Muna, Peter?
Okay, well, Muna is run at Auckland Girls Grammar. As I said, it will be on the 28th and 29th. And I really, really recommend that as many Rotarians as possible get along there. You only have to go along there for a short period of time, go for an hour on a Saturday, just observe the exercise, see what it's like. You will be surprised how dynamic this is. This is run like the United Nations. They argue, they debate, and they dress up, as you can see by the photo, in terms of the countries that they've been asked to represent. So it's really good. And I think that we've got a couple of, I think Ariana and Isabella are going to go and have a look this time. Is that correct?
Yep, yeah, we're really looking forward to kind of checking it out and helping out where we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so that's pretty much Muna.
Now, the good thing about Muna is that you'll be surprised, even though you think you know everything about, you think your general knowledge is good, go to Muna. You'll be surprised.
Well, once again, the benefit to Rotary supporting Muna is a closer connection to the schools, asking these people to come back and talk to the Rotary Club, it's another discussion with the school.
Right.
That last question is a very good one because quite a few Rotarians have never been along to see Muna, and this is a tragedy. Go and see Muna.
Go and see Muna. All you need is about the most an hour, less than that. You sit down and listen to the arguments they presented. Like I said, if you think your general knowledge is good, you think your argument is good, go to Muna and you'll be surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Okay, is there any questions at this point for around any of the programs? I know we're coming into about 28 minutes into the session. Yep. Anything for Ani or Peter? There was one question, a number of clubs that have been involved in programs. I didn't see any hands go up, and I'm sure a number of clubs have been involved. Any questions?
Do you need a police check to go to Muna? No, you don't, because you are just a spectator. Or basically, you are not involved, you're not working with the young ones.
Lee has a question. Thanks, Lee.
Yes, I'm the incoming president for Remuera, and if we wish to sponsor some schools which are not allocated to us, do we just contact Amy or Peter?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be more than happy to be in touch with you, Lee.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
Thanks, Lee.
Let me just go through your slide showing different program. No, Edith, no. Okay. All good. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, back to RIDA again. The biggest thing with RIDA is that in the booklet, you'll find that there is the name Lisa James is listed there. She's the Rotary coordinator of RIDA. And should any of your clubs have a school that may be interested, the best thing to do is to contact Lisa James and or Maria Lovelock from Road Safety New Zealand, and they will do the visit to the school. It's quite a complicated exercise for a school to participate in RIDA because they have to find sites and they have to, and it's generally a 1 day out of school for a whole class or a whole level in the school, and sometimes that's difficult for schools to manage. So a number of schools don't get involved with RIDA because they just do not want to have a day out. Other schools go at it quite vigorously. So it does require the people who actually deliver RIDA to actually be there in the selling of the exercise or explaining how it works before it'll get across the line. It generally takes a while to get these across the line. Any questions on that?
Can I bring attention to those? It's non-negotiable if you are involved with RIDA to have a police check, and you have to complete the RI Learning Center on the youth vulnerable, okay? Because we are working with the under 16 years old. As long as we're working under 16, like RIPEN, we have to have a police check. Okay. Right.
Okay. Okay, the Science and Technology Forum, we've talked about that before. I think that one of the best things that any club can do is, having sponsored somebody to go to the Science Forum, is to get them back to talk about it. I was at St. John's, no, where was I? I think it was St. John's, I forget which club it was now. Anyway, no, so it was Newmarket the other night, and there was a young lady there, the three of them there, but one particular young lady told a story about her experience at RIPEN. To be honest, it was one of the best speeches I've heard in a long time. And these people are quite outstanding. And what they get out of this is fantastic. And really, Rotary is doing a great service to our country when they run this, because they are helping young people get into the STEM subjects, which are particularly difficult for some schools to deal with, particularly when you come from remote schools, schools in remote parts of New Zealand. So I think this is a great program. And there's a question at the bottom, how many clubs have contributed to it? Well, most clubs have tried to. Some clubs don't get into it from year to year because their school does not actually get somebody across the line. That does happen. It's not easy. It's very competitive. About 160 people across New Zealand. It's not easy to get into. And there are some very, very high decile schools, very, very scholarly schools in Auckland that will struggle sometimes to get one person across the line. That's how hard it is. So, but it's not. That doesn't mean to say they shouldn't try. They should definitely try.
Right, Jeanette, have you got a question there?
Jeanette, you are muted.
Yeah. No, I just put my hand up to say that we had participated in it. That's Otahu Rotary. And I'm currently one of the trustees of the science school. And I would just reiterate what Peter has said. This is an amazing program. It is very competitive, and only the best of the science students get selected. And that's usually only about 25 out of Auckland. So it's very competitive, but amazing young people.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Can I just say something, you guys? I am the principal of a local college, Tuakau College, and we have participated in all of these events that you are talking about. And can I just say that the organisation is outstanding. The Science Technology Forum, we've had students go from there. They are wonderful. It's a wonderful program. It's the same with the RIDA. Our students are going to RIDA this Tuesday. And it is a bit of an organisational nightmare, but our kids do get a lot out of it, and we don't participate in it every year. because of the organisation, but we have been involved in it before as well. So can I just say to all those clubs that are involved with secondary schools and get involved in it, our club's only got 10 members, and we get involved in all of these youth programs, and that's one of our main focuses. So get out there and get involved in schools. It's great. And thank you very much, Arnie and Peter, for all the work that you're doing.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, thanks for affirming what we're doing. It's all about the students in secondary schools and how best we can help them. Rotary Youth Exchange.
Shall we move past that, John?
John?
I think we've already talked about that, so yeah, we can move on.
Move past it.
Can I move on?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are other programs that the district supported, Peter?
Okay, well, there's a few of these. This first one that's come up is probably the one that's creating the most activity at the moment across the district. Reading for Enrichment. This started at One Tree Hill College. It's moved on to Otahuhu College and moved on to a number of other schools, and it's being rolled out. Papatoetoe High would have had it last year had the COVID not come along and knocked that one out, but they're busy trying to get it going again in Papatoetoe High. Aorere College is trying to get it going as well. This just has a very interesting aspects to this, because this is about helping young students in schools, not just with reading comprehension, and in fact to personal confidence as well. The other thing about this, which is really significant, is that most of the people who come and help with these students, who are the mentors and the sort of people who sit with them and help them through their reading, etc., most of them are not Rotarians.
Mm.
They actually come from the community. They want to do this. They are quite often ex-teachers or people who've been in education at some point in the exercise, and they see the value of this exercise. And that's the thing I'm most impressed with, is that this is not a program. It's a program which is organised and run by actually Anne Dunphy from Penrose Rotary, but it actually utilises the resources of the community, which we don't otherwise touch. And that is fantastic. Every time I go to one of these things, I see people I know that are not Rotarians. So this has some very interesting connotations to it. Any questions on that one? Okay, well, the Rotary Dictionary, this is well known. But this is primarily for primary schools. So that's we put that dictionary into primary schools, normally low decile primary schools as well. Trees for Survival, it's been around for a long while. That is a survival program for sure. It's been around for a long time, and schools get involved. Eureka Awards, that is an award which flows on from the Science Forum, because it's a science award where people actually have to write papers. And this is also managed by Peter Buchanan, who's part of the youth team. And that's dealt with in the book as well, if you wish to just have a look at that. The Walsh Flying School, school-age students. Now that's been around for quite a long time too, and at the moment we're just in the process of negotiating with the flying school as to how many Rotary scholarships they will give us. The Walsh Flying School is actually run by Scouting New Zealand, and it's for Scouts, and Rotary through the trusts, the Chenery and the June Gray trusts, we are able to actually obtain 3 scholarships for Rotary sponsored students. St John's Have a Go Sailing. This is a classic case of bringing primary school students to the harbour and showing them the water, because a lot of them have never seen the water. I mean, it's amazing as that may sound. And so they go and do a sailing program. Often these are run by Sailing New Zealand as well. The VIP camp for Remuera Rotary, that's a camp that's been going for some years, visually impaired persons. I'm not just actually sure just how that's going at the moment. I haven't spoken to them for a while. In fact, if Lee Marshall's on, he might have a comment to make about that. Lee, are you still on?
Yes, I am, Peter. Yeah, I'm a little bit unsure about what the status of that project is at this point in time, and
okay.
I think we'll have some clarification for that on that before it's due to be held again with the colleges.
Sure. When you get some information on that, Lee, if you could just come back to me on that, that'd be much appreciated.
Will do.
Thank you. What have we got now? Auckland East Breakfast Club. Now, breakfast clubs are doing breakfast for schools, and certainly in primary schools, is just almost standard issue, frankly, across Rotary these days. Outward Bound, of course, Outward Bound is one that we have sponsored for some time, and but Outward Bound is a course which is for individuals, young individuals, and that's actually quite an expensive course, and a lot of Rotary clubs would struggle with the cost of that. Heine, this is you.
This is my baby. The Young Totara Award. It's a new award. Not a new award. It's an old award, but new for District 9920. We brought it in from District 9970, and the Young Totara Award's been going around for the last 25 years. It's awarded to any adult under the age of 21. Could be somebody who have done good for the community, whether in the school, in the community. It will need a nomination by a club, and my involvement is just basically getting organized a Totara tree, a pin, and a certificate. So the Young Totara Award this last year was awarded to, the first one was awarded to Molly Hillman from Rotary Club of St. John's. Molly did amazing things. If you want to know, she brought in secondhand shoes, repaired them, and redistributed them back to the lower decile schools. That's what she did. And she was awarded the Young Totara Award in 2020 by Rotary Club of St. John's. So if anyone would like to learn a bit more about that, once again, just give me a call and I'll be more than happy to talk you through it. Any questions?
Thank you. Challenge Camp we've talked about before, so we'll leave that.
This is the Young Totara Award. Okay. We come to the end.
Just before we come to the end, I just want to make a couple of comments about a few things that have come through here. A lot has been said about the young team that have been running Raipen this year. They are drawn from past Rylarians, Rotaractors, and some who have not been to Ryla. The thing that's is significant about this is that team that have helped run Raipen or run Raipen this year will largely be going to Ryla again in July. And they will go there as team leaders and mentors for the teams on Ryla. So we have a situation now where Ryla and Raipen have become inextricably linked in a rotation that goes through from one to the other. And that's what we really want to do with Moona. We want to get that inside the rotation as well. We want to make sure that everybody is working together and actually knows how everything works, because when we used to run these programs in clubs, they were run as separates, they were run as silos. They never really mixed up. They never really got the cross-pollination that we're now getting. And that's really critical to bringing young people into our district and running the district for us. And they're not necessarily Rotarians, as was said, and we'd like them to be Rotarians one day, but there's no pressure on them to do that. But they are pulling together as a team, and I want to thank Aini particularly for getting that started in the Raipen context. And as I say, those people you've seen on the screen today, most of them will be turning up at Ryla in about 6 weeks' time.
Any final questions or queries for Peter and Aini or the young team? What about a contact for the young team going to schools? Is through you two, Peter and Aini?
No, it will be in the booklet, the youth program booklet, which will be available online. Their email and their phone numbers, will be there.
Okay, Peter, you might like to.
Having said that, Edith, if anybody wants to get involved in that any of these exercises at all, they're more than welcome to give me a call. I'm not too hard to find. I should be harder to find, but I'm not. and I'm more than happy to talk them through it, or actually direct them to the right source of where the assistance can come from. So please don't anybody hesitate in doing that.
And the access to the information that you've seen on all the resources is actually on the district website. And if you do the drop-down menu and you go to the Youth and Young Adults program, drop-down menu, and it opens up to all of these programs that's been discussed this afternoon, and then the contacts as well. So
Sure.
please utilise that.
Just one point, Edith. We haven't updated the dates for next year yet on that program because we're sort of waiting at the moment. Once Moona's finished, we'll do it. We already pretty much know what Ryla's date next year is going to be. So we don't rush to do the dates until they've actually completed this year, really. So that'll be up in probably about another month's time with the new dates going forward. But they don't change much. If you look at the dates for this year, you can pretty well say the dates for next year are going to be almost in the same area. We don't vary things too much.
Thank you. Okay, so we're just about up into wrap time. What I'd like to do on behalf of the LED committee and DGE Steve Cheney is to thank you, Arnie and Peter, for presenting the outline of our Rotary youth programs and brands, and to our four young faces, Ariana, Bogdan, Bogan, Craig and Isabella. Welcome on board. We are certainly in a much better space to having you with us, and I'm hopeful that a number of our clubs will get in touch and utilise your skills and talents in the incoming Rotary year. So on behalf of LED, thank you very much, and I'd like everyone to acknowledge our youth program session with hands up, little silent claps, wherever you'd like to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I shall leave the meeting. Have a good one, everybody. And it's wet and windy in Wellington.
Okay, I'm leaving too. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you, guys. It's
Okay.
lovely to meet you.
You too.
Great, thank you. Right, our final 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to put you back into breakout groups, Whānau, and we're going to look at the big question is around our 5 sessions. Sean, I'm wondering if you can put our evaluation link back up for everyone. We need that feed in from you. Hit those 3 questions. Tell us, give us feed in, because we can only do things better with your feed in. So we're going to break out for the next 5 minutes. Just any final thoughts around today, any other questions that may have come up, and we're going to break you into our AG groups. We know there's not as many, and there may be slightly different groups coming through. So our AGs, we are asking how the sessions went today, anything else they want to add, and then we're going to bring everyone back to wrap. And then those that would like to stay in line for any other informal questions and things, the LED committee, DG Steve and others would be happy to take those from 5 onwards. So John, I'm wondering if we can go to breakout rooms. Okay, Frank?
Going to breakout rooms now.
Thank you.
This time I didn't give them the option, I just sent them. But yeah, we've only got 4 rooms.
Just trying to see if there's an AG in. Oh, there is.
I think so.
There's an AG in every room. Yeah.
I tried to do that. I cut it back to 4 rooms. So I think there's
Yeah.
only 4 AGs left anyway.
Yeah.
So we've got Tanya in one, Venetia in another one, Frank in another one, and Ashwini in another one. But we've also got Edith and Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ursula had to go, didn't she?
Yes. No, they're good groups, actually.
They were dropping like flies towards the end there. We went from 50 down to about 34 or 35 real quick.
And once I got to that's a long day. I've forgotten how long 4 hours on Zoom is.
It's a long time, yeah. I'm thinking it's just about time for a glass of wine now.
Oh, I could manage that.
You probably got time to go and get one, Steve.
I'll have to go and get Edith one.
It's all right. I'll get
Okay.
Francis to get me one.
Just quickly, I'd give them longer than 5 minutes. Oh, you're on mute.
I forget sometimes that I move my cursor into a different screen, so it doesn't think I'm in Zoom anymore. So when I hit the space bar, it doesn't unmute me. Yeah, no, I was going to leave until 5.
Yeah, because I'm listening to Edith's group and man, there.
A lot of kōrero going on.
Aye.
I think for next year, Peter Ross needs to start up his youth presentation. It's the same one he's been doing for the last 10 years. You're muted now.
We actually met him personally.
Yeah.
And spent an afternoon with him trying to get him to not just do it himself. So to get him to actually co-present was the biggest step. Because if you're looking at people like Pam Deal or Arnie or I don't know who's doing Ryder, George Wright, that they're all competent speakers.
Yeah, yeah. I think the lady who runs Road Safety New Zealand, who runs the Ryder programs, she's going to join Papakura Rotary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good because I think Ryder's a great program.
Yeah, I mean, George was, I think, instrumental in getting off the ground. I think Lisa James, didn't Heine say Lisa James was the Rotary chair of Ryder, I think? Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't actually been because I mean I'm still a working man, and to get there midweek is difficult for me.
Oh, I'm still a working man as well, so
Yeah.
you
We'll have 5 of us from Papakura coming to your changeover.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat,
Yeah.
John.
So George and Peter, me, Alan, who's the outgoing president, and Sue, who's incoming.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
So where's that? Is it the new MIT campus?
Yeah, where the railway station.
Railway station, yeah. Yeah.
It's just up 1 floor up.
Yep.
So you can catch the train.
Catch the train, I can.
And we had a big debate about whether we'd do alcohol or not. We decided not to. So it's just a 2 till 4.
Yeah, it's afternoon tea. No, you don't need alcohol.
Yeah.
Ingrid changed it up when she did it as a cocktail evening.
Yeah.
Which was pretty good. I thought.
Also, Craig and Gary both did cocktails.
Yeah, but I think Ingrid started the trend.
Oh, okay.
Because previously it had been breakfast and it had gone on for 4 hours, and we'd got to meet the blinking incoming DG's grandchildren.
Oh, because I did Leanne's one.
Yeah, but that was kind of the formalities. There was a list of things you had to tick off.
Oh, when we did Leanne's, more people turned up than it booked. So our club had to go without breakfast.
Oh no! Where was that at?
It was at the Vodafone Event Centre.
Okay, no, I don't think I went to that one.
Yeah, so we had to sit for 4 hours without any.
Oh gosh, that's a bit rough.
Was it? Oh, yeah, you do it, but yeah, because there's a lot of people don't register or confirm and turn up.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't do that.
No, but they do.
Yeah. I know I talked to Leanne a while ago about whether or not she could do it as an event and get people to pay online and everything, but it would have meant creating a WinCave account on the club's bank account and then linking that to the event, which we could do. But Leanne said, "Oh, I haven't got time for that."
Oh.
So I think the idea is she's going to get the money off the club. So Papakura is going to pay for us, and they'll just invoice us back.
Invoice your bank.
Yeah. Well, the way Papakura does it's quite good. They just at the end of every month, they invoice you for the number of meetings you've attended that month.
Oh, okay.
And they do the dues the same way. They send you an invoice for your dues every 6 months.
Oh, because we we're set up from the old Papatoi Toi Club. We just have a monthly direct credit.
Yeah.
Of what are we paying? 75 a month, and that's everything.
Okay, so whether you go or not, you still pay you $75. Yeah.
Oh, and the rest just drops into the Rotary donation or
Sunshine Fund
or whatever.
Yeah.
But this year we ended up with something like a $10,000 surplus.
Yeah.
Because of all the COVID.
Yeah, because everyone's still paying their $75 and not going to meetings.
Yeah, and the retired guys pay 65.
Right.
And if you're not having a meal and you're just like a honorary member, it's $30.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a levy that covers guests' meals. But because we meet for dinner before the meeting, if people don't want to come for dinner, they just come along for the meeting. It doesn't cost them anything.
Yeah.
So because the room hire is free. Right, I'm thinking probably I should think about bringing them back. I might give them a warning message. Yeah. I'll send them a warning.
I see Tracy Faber was on that last call.
Yeah.
She had a hand up.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Didn't I pick her up?
It was probably to ask you a question.
No, I don't think so. She's the youth director next year for Papakura.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Right, I'm going to broadcast a message out.
Okay.
Actually, I hit the wrong button. They're closing now. They'll be 45 seconds now.
Okay.
I thought I'd sent a message, but I must have hit the button that said close rooms.
Steve.
Okay, I'm going to hand over to DG Steve Cheney. This is your show. And as the final words, and had a great conversation with people. I've written some notes down. If anyone else wants to pass those on to me, I'd love to collate those. We've got some must-dos that might come up. Update membership details is my one call to action from my little group. What about you, Vanita? Any one call to action from your group? Vanita with us? Frank, what about your one call to action from your group? You're on mute, Frank.
Okay, so the one call to action might have been, is it possible to localize some of these youth programs, seeing how probably the borders are closed most places, and there's not going to be any real youth programs even in the coming year. So is there a way for the district to kind of help localize some of these programs?
Thank you. Tanya, call to action.
I'll give you an answer straight away, Frank. I think some of these programs where there's not fiscal involved, we can run it as a like a satellite in the islands, and I think we should look at that. Something personally that's on my to-do list.
Good.
Thanks, DG Steve. Sorry, Tanya.
Oh, kia ora. There was no call to action except to continue doing these wonderful Zoom learning opportunities. People felt it was convenient, it was saved on time, cost and effort. It put faces to names and giving a wonderful overview of the structure of the district, what programs are available, and actually finding out who you can contact if you need help. So there was a very firm, please keep doing this.
Good. Anita.
Thank you. Just wanted to quickly say, we looked at youth programs. Most are out of New Zealand, and what we could adopt locally in the Pacific Island countries. Two good examples came up, which was the dental hygiene, which I think 3 clubs are doing in New Zealand. That we could adopt easily, which are not district programs, district-run programs. It's just club initiatives. But if there's any thoughts about how we can adopt some of the district initiatives in the Pacific Island countries, we'd love to hear about it.
Thanks, Vanita. Chris.
Well, I was with Frank in our breakout space, but one of the questions was about the Rotary Directory. I think I've heard about this before, but I can't remember it. So can you just remind us what's going to happen with the Rotary Directory? Is it coming out electronically, and when is it coming out? Hopefully soon, so that everyone can keep in contact.
The published version came from a printer that was a friend of Rotary, and 2 years ago he sold the business and the software went with it. So there's no software for creating the directory. That's why I'm driving really hard to get Club Runner up to date, because once that's done, then I can extract a district handbook.
Is that online, DGE, or will that be hard copy?
We've got to do the all the artwork and that for it. So it may be online out of Club Runner rather than actually a document.
Thank you.
You can actually produce a PDF document out of Club Runner if you want to, Steve, and have it as a static document. But the problem with that is it's out of date as soon as it's published.
Rajiv?
Yeah, just trying to say that can we not go to the old company and get the piece of typeset or software from them?
That's been tried, Rajiv.
Okay.
I think probably the call to action is that we will investigate the online version from documents that we already have, and DGE Steve, that's your job.
Yes.
Okay, I'm handing over to you now. Was there any other group that we didn't get a call to action or from, Whānau, before we hand over to DGE Steve? Okay, all yours.
Kia ora koutou katoa. It's been a long day. I'd forgotten how long 4 hours online is, let alone the preparation. But it's just so great to see so many people across our district, and just all the AGs that have helped out. Vanita, Chris, Tanya, Ashwini, Sean. And Frank. We just can't pull these things together unless everyone helps. And it just reminds me how important the AG role is actually in the district, of actually making things happen and getting results. And also to the district chairs. I see Kirsten's still on board. Long day, Kirsten. And Jeanette Drysdale, John Fothergill, Ursula. And lastly, I better thank her. I better thank my good wife, Edith. We do pull this together as a tag team, but she ends up doing most of the work. But just thanks, Edith, for everything you've done. It's great. And yeah, Homai te Pakapaki. And I don't think there's anyone else that I've missed. In terms of this type of learning, it was a new initiative last year when we had to pivot with COVID, and it's going to continue to be the way that we continue to deliver. It's easier, it gets better presentation, we get far better attendance than we've had previously. I think the peak today at 54 people online, and people do come in and out. Your people will come in for an hour and then go out for an hour and then come back in, and it's just an easy way to learn. And just the standard of delivery, just really pleased with, just what Peter Ross and Annie came up with. So anyway, thank you very much, and hopefully we have a great year. And we've still got the training for next week, 1 till 5 again, and we're doing membership, public image, and the foundation and international service. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Those of you that would like